Good morning, everyone. Warm welcome. My name is Madhav Sir. I welcome you all in the most important session for your RBI Grade B examination, where we are going to discuss the RBI circulars. As you can see, we will be majorly focusing on May, June, July circulars, but along with that, I have included the most important circulars from the month of March as well as April. So this session is going to be really very important. I'm pretty sure you are going to enjoy the discussion. But before I start, may I have a reply in the comment section that yes, I'm audible, visible, everything is fine. And if you are ready and you're good to go, just give me yes, sir, so that we can begin the discussion without any further delay. Quickly, everyone. Ready? Shall we begin? All set, guys? Chalo. Let's get started. Here we go with the first question, but before I start with the discussion, if you want to download the PDF of this particular session, that will be available on my Telegram channel. So join the Telegram channel @Madhav Arora is the handle, scan the code, or the name is Economics by Madhav Arora. Here we go with the first question. Choose the correct statement out of the given ones. Consider the following 5 statements with respect to the RBI priority sector lending targets. I hope you all are very well aware that RBI has revised the priority sector lending targets in the month of March 2025, and these targets have been implemented from 1st of April 2025. In order to add certain points in it, in order to give you the certain context related to the same, I hope you all know that the revision has been done for certain limits. For example, the first limit which I remember, or which I would like you to remember, is the education loan. Earlier in the category of priority sector lending, the education loan criteria was 20 lakhs, but now this 20 lakhs criteria has been revised to 25 lakhs. It has been increased to 25 lakhs. So I would say in case of education loan, the revision has been done and it has been increased to 25 lakhs. The revision has been done in case of home loan also. And in case of home loan, there is major transformation which is done. And if we talk about this major transformation, first of all, home loan category was earlier defined only for 2 categories, or only for 2 types of, I would say, the areas. One was termed as the urban areas and the other one was termed as the metro cities. But now the definition for them has been revised. What it had said, what it has come up with, it has come up with in case of metro city. In case of metro city, you can now borrow loan up to what value? Give me the answer. The total dwelling cost is 63 lakhs. In urban areas, total dwelling cost is 57 lakhs. In the non-urban areas, the total dwelling cost is 44 lakhs, if you remember. So the home loan which is allowed under the priority sector lending limit has been revised. Can you give me these values, guys? So this is 50 lakhs, this is 45 lakhs, and this is 35 lakhs. If you remember, say yes or no. Say yes or no if it is correct. If I talk about the borrowings which are done in order to renovate your houses, so for that particular purpose, this has been revised to 15 lakhs, 12 lakh, as well as the value of 10 lakh rupees, as well as value of 10 lakh. Clear, guys? Got it? Okay. I would like to add some more points in this. The next point which I would like to add in this particular discussion is regarding the social infrastructure. In case of social infrastructure, earlier the limit was 5 crores which has been revised to 8. Earlier the limit was 10 crores which has been revised to 12 crores. So in case of health infrastructure, 10 to 12. In case of rest, all the other social infrastructures, 5 to 8 crore revision has been done. The next point is renewable energy. 35 crore rupees of borrowing can be done for a project, but for an individual, this limit is 10 lakh rupees. I guess rest all the criteria are almost the same. Now coming back to the news. For domestic commercial banks, excluding RRBs as well as small finance bank, the priority sector lending target is 40% of ANBC or COBSE, whichever is lower. No, sir. The point is whichever is higher. So out of the two, 40% of ANBC or 40% of COBSE, whichever is higher, will be considered. Within agriculture must be at least 18%, or with non-commercial farming or non-commercial farmers, and the non-commercial farmers must get at least 14%, and small and marginal farmers should get at least 10%. So the terms are not exactly, it is at least 10%. So the first statement is wrong. Got it? Moving on to the second statement. For urban cooperative banks, the priority sector lending target is 60%. That is true. With sub-targets requiring 7.5% for MSME, true. But in case of 12%, so this target is for weaker section, not for the exports, because in case of export credit, no specific, in case of exports, no specific credit is basically defined, or no specific criteria is basically defined. Is this point clear, guys? Is this point clear? Okay. Moving on to the next point. What does the next point says? So the next point talks about the loans to the registered NBFCs for on lending to agriculture are eligible for priority sector lending up to 10 lakh rupees per borrower. So there is no kind of limit has been defined. Yes, the overall cap is 5%. That is true. But per borrower limit is not defined. That is wrong. Lending to renewable energy by individual household is eligible for classification under priority sector up to 10 lakh rupees per borrower. Bank loans to renewable energy power projects, public utilities are eligible up to 35 crores. That is correct. If the district has per capita per priority sector lending credit greater than 42,000, then it will get an incremental PSL. No sir, it won't get the incremental PSL. Rather, if your per capita PSL credit is 90,000, in that particular scenario 125% weightage will be given at the time of computing, and in case of 42,000 the weight is 90%. So in case of 42,000, here the weight is 90%, and this weight is where the loan priority sector lending per capita credit is less than 9,000, the weight is 125%. ठीक है जी, समझ आ गया? Just give me 1 second, let me remove this so that you can view it clearly. चलो जी, clear हो गया? Let's move on to the next question. Okay, let's move on to the second question. The second question says, which of the following statement about RBI and Bank of Mauritius MOU is completely correct? We all know that RBI as well as Bank of Mauritius has signed an agreement which will allow Indian importers and exporters as well as Mauritian importers and exporters to complete the transaction in the respective currency. That means Indians will pay Malaysian currency to the Malaysian exporters, and Mauritian will pay the Indian currency against the Indian exports. So this arrangement has been done in order to decrease the dependency on the third currency, and this entire tie-up was done in March 2025 in Port Louis in the presence of both the nations' leadership. So the MOU cover both current as well as capital account transaction, obviously the permissible capital account transactions. The major deliverable is to implement INR MUR local currency settlement system. INR clearing center in Mauritius will be set up, which will enable the INR settlement in Mauritius automated clearing and settlement system. Remember that. Commercial banks, they may hold INR account at the Bank of Mauritius for facilitating INR transactions. So this is very important for the Indian economy as well as for the Mauritius economy. Now let's talk about the statements. MOU only covers current account. That is wrong. MOU covers current as well as capital accounts, capital account transactions. The resolution emphasizes that all the importers, they must settle exclusively in INR. No sir, the settlement will be done in both the currencies rather than depending upon the third currency. MOU includes setting up of INR clearing center in Mauritius and allows commercial banks to hold INR account with the Bank of Mauritius. That is true. INR MUR settlement will require all trade invoices to be first converted. नहीं सर, इसी conversion को तो बंद करना. Directly आप INRs को MUR में, MUR को INR में convert करने की भी जरूरत नहीं है. The reason is, if Indian is exporting, Indian will give the bill in INR and they will receive the funds in INR. Mauritian is exporting, they will give the bill in MUR and they will receive the payment in MUR. So there is no need to convert into the third currency, and this has been launched in March 2025. This has been launched in March 2025. So the answer to this particular question is C option. Go with this the next question, guys. RBI's annual conference of Ombudsman 2025 with the theme Transforming Grievance Redress, the AI advantage has been introduced. Go with the options and give me the correct answer. Okay, let's see. The conference was held in New Delhi. No, sir, this is wrong. This conference was basically held in Mumbai. Dr. Pushpak chaired the RBI's Committee on Free AI and discussed, yes, sir, and even the free AI related report has been already submitted. So B option till now is correct. RBI governor emphasized that ombudsman framework should be completely नहीं ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. The theme is highlighting the use of AI in monetary policy. No, sir. Use of AI in grievance redress. The event was attempted only by RBI officials. No, sir. This is wrong. The event was attended not only by the RBI officials. Rather, in this particular event, many, I would say, officials from NBFCs, non-banking payment system operators, credit information companies, and many other stakeholders were present. Even the managing director and CEOs of major banks were also present in this particular conference. Remember that it was inaugurated, or I would say the chief guest of this conference was Sanjay Malhotra ji, the governor of RBI. Remember that. Anything else which you need to remember? It was conducted in March 2025. Headquarter where it was conducted in Mumbai. Purpose was basically to discuss AI can transform the grievance redress mechanism in the financial sector and improve the customer experience. They have also talked about the banks. They should strengthen their internal grievance redress mechanism. They have even talked about the KYC process to be enhanced, raise the customer awareness, especially against the digital fraud. These all things were basically discussed in this particular conference. So the answer to this particular conference is none other than B option is correct. ठीक है जी, clear हो गया, समझ आ गया. Okay, moving on to the next point. अगला point कहता है with reference to the RBI's framework for recognizing self-regulatory organization for account aggregator ecosystem, consider the following statements. I hope you all know account aggregator ecosystem का क्या मतलब है. Sir, account aggregator is basically the mediator between the banks as well as customers, and on the consent of the bank, on the consent of the customer, these account aggregators, they can share the customer data with the other, regulated entities or with the other financial entities which are providing the financial services to the public. So keeping this point in mind, account aggregator was introduced by RBI. Now the question is, when we talk about these account aggregator, RBI has recently given the framework for setting up of self-regulatory organization mechanism for the account aggregator ecosystem, which will ensure operational harmony, standardize as well as dispute management among the multiple participants. So to create a recognized self-regulatory organization for account aggregator, this initiative was taken by RBI. If I talk about the account aggregators, an account aggregator was first, the framework for account aggregator was first introduced by RBI in 2016, and it is responsible to secure, it is basically It basically enables the secure and consent-based sharing of financial data between customers, financial institutions, as well as regulators. So shareholders, they operate under different regulators. I would say they operate under RBI, SEBI, IRDAI, PFRDA, even the Department of Revenue. So the core features of SRO is it must be a not-for-profit company registered under Companies Act 2013. Its minimum net worth should be 2 crores. Application deadline was 15 June 2025 via Pravaha model. Then reporting obligation was must report regularly to RBI in order to ensure full regulatory adherence, and technical oversight will be given by RBIT, that is Reserve Bank Information Technology Private Limited, which is the wholly owned subsidiary of RBI. ठीक है जी, क्लियर हो गया? अब क्वेश्चंस पढ़ते हैं. Self-regulatory organization account aggregator must be set up not for profit company with a net worth of 2 crore rupees. So the first statement is wrong. Application for recognition as an SRO AA must be submitted through the Pravaha portal by 15 June 2025. That is true. Account aggregator was first introduced by RBI in 2016 to facilitate cross-border remittance. No. RBI will continue to frame and publish the technical specifications for AA ecosystem. That is correct. For account aggregator, RBIT is responsible for the technical specification. SRO AA is expected to coordinate among the entities which are regulated by RBI and SEBI only. No, sir. It also coordinates with the entities which are regulated by IRDAI, PFRDA and whatnot. So keeping that in mind, second statement is correct. B and D option are the correct answers. Okay, moving on to the fifth statement or the fifth question. The fifth question says, with reference to the fifth Digital Payment Awareness Week 2025, consider the following statement. So if I talk about the Digital Payment Awareness Week, what all points I need to remember? So the Reserve Bank of India has launched the fifth edition of Digital Payment Awareness Week, aimed at promoting the safe, secure, as well as widespread adoption of the digital payment across the country. For that particular purpose, this week was introduced. Remember that the Reserve Bank of India has launched the fifth edition. This is very important. Dates were 10th to 16th of March. Theme was India Pays Digitally. Mission linked was Har Payment Digital. That was the RBI's flagship mission. It was obviously inaugurated by the Governor of RBI, and the objective is to promote digital payment awareness, ensure safe as well as secure transactions in the country. So that is the overall scenario. ठीक है जी. अब इससे रिलेटेड हमारे पास कुछ क्वेश्चंस हैं. Digital Payment Awareness Week 2025 was observed from 10th to 16th of March 2025. That is true. Under the theme India Pays Digitally, that is absolutely correct. So the first statement is absolutely correct. India Pays Digitally is the correct theme of this particular given question. Moving on to the next point. What does the next point says? Har Payment Digital Initiative was launched by RBI alone, not in partnership with any of the ministries. So this is the initiative which has been taken by RBI alone. Next is RBIT has been assigned the responsibility of conducting DPAW. No sir, it is conducted by RBI only. DPAW aims to encourage both awareness and responsible usage of the digital payment among all the sections of society. That is true. The two public contests launched during DPAW 2025 were Har Payment Digital Short Video Contest. Digital Short Video Contest. The next is Har Payment Digital Comic Story Challenge. Har Payment Digital Comic Strip Challenge. So remember this. This is something which you need to remember. तो अगर हम उस हिसाब से देखें तो हमारी जो लास्ट स्टेटमेंट है दैट इज नॉट एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. सो इट इज इनकरेक्ट. तो अगर इनकरेक्ट है तो विल इग्नोर इट. सो इस हिसाब से अगर हम देखें तो हमारा करेक्ट क्या बनेंगे, ए और सी. सो फर्स्ट ऑप्शन इज द करेक्ट आंसर. समझ आ रहा है भाई? मजा आ रहा है? इज इट क्लियर? हैव यू ऑल लाइक द सेशन? इफ यू हैवंट लाइक द सेशन येट, क्विकली हिट द लाइक बटन. Quickly hit the like button and do share with me. Do share with me. Are you enjoying the discussion, guys? मजा आ रहा है? Are you feeling कि हाँ after this session you will have a confidence with respect to the RBI circulars? Okay then. Let's move on to the next question. अगला क्वेश्चन क्या कहता है सर विद रेफरेंस टू द प्रवाह पोर्टल व्हाट इज दिस प्रवाह पोर्टल सर इट इज गाइस प्रवाह स्टैंड्स फॉर एनी आइडिया if someone asks you pravaha stands for what will be your answer so the answer to this particular question should be pravaha basically stands for what so pravaha stands for I'm still waiting any idea guys चलो आप भी टाइप करो मैं भी बताता हूं प्रवाह जो टर्म है it stands for platform for regulatory authorization platform for regulatory application validation and authorization I repeat Pravah portal is platform for regulatory application validation and authorization so it is basically for all the regulatory applications licenses and approval request from 1st of May 2025 onwards अगर अब आपको कोई भी request raise करनी है in front of RBI you have to apply through Pravah portal only. So it represents RBI's major step towards the end-to-end digitization of regulatory workflows, enhancing the efficiency, transparency, as well as accountability. Remember that the launch date for this particular portal was what? What was the launch date? And it is mandatory from which date? Sir, it was launched back in May 2024, but it has been effective. Mandatory use has been effective from 1st of May 2025. So effective from 1st of May 2025, mandatory. Usse pehle it was an optional. You can go for it or you can not go for it. It's up to you. So what are the features? Sir, this will enable digital summation of applications and support the documents, provide real-time tracking through SMS and email notifications that allow applicants to submit additional clarifications or data online when required. It ensured time-bound processing and centralized monitoring by RBI department. Exception only for those who are unable to file digitally, though their application will settle or their application will still be processed via Pravah internally only. So if you are not even eligible, you're not even capable to reach to Pravah portal, then also your application will be finally cleared on Pravah portal only. So Pravah was launched in May 2024, digitized the process, that is true. On 1st of May 2025, only regulated entities are mandated to use Pravah, while individuals, they can continue to submit the physical application. That is wrong. So it is mandated for all. It is mandated for all applicants, public as well as regulated entities from 1st of May 2025. So this is wrong. Pravah provides digital submission, application tracking, clarification, upload features of the to the applicants. That is true. The next point says even if the applications are received physically, they are also processed at the Pravah portal. That is correct. Pravah applications are monitored and processed by the Department of Supervision within RBI. No sir. No sir. Pravah covers multiple RBI departments, not limited to any single one. So applications are monitored and processed only by Department of Supervision. No, Pravah applications are monitored and processed for all the different RBI departments. So the answer to this particular question is going to be ACD. First option is the correct answer. Shipra has given the correct answer. Beautiful. Moving on to the next one. अगला क्वेश्चन काफ़ी ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है, इस पर थोड़ा टाइम भी इन्वेस्ट करना चाहूँगा बिकॉज दिस इज समथिंग विच इज़ इम्पॉर्टेंट with respect to your examination, that is counter cyclical conservation buffer. So counter cyclical conservation buffer was introduced back in Basel III, where banks are asked to maintain counter cyclical buffer in a range of 0 to 2.5% of RWA, and it is also maintained out of the tier 1 capital only. It is also maintained out of the tier 1 capital only. Remember that if RBI is revising the capital counter cyclical capital buffer, then RBI gives 4 quarters, that is 1 year time period, which we call as lead time between the announcement and implementation. So indications how we decide that whether these counter cyclical capital buffer is need to be maintained or not? Sir, it is decided on the basis of primary factor is credit to GDP gap ratio. Credit to GDP gap ratio. This is the primary factor. But if I talk about the secondary factors, it include credit to deposit, credit to deposit ratio. First point. Second point is industrial outlook. And the third point we have is interest coverage ratio. So these are the secondary parameters, but the primary parameter is credit to GDP gap ratio. अब अगर मैं बात करूं इस credit to GDP gap ratio की, in that particular discussion you need to remember that this credit to GDP gap ratio, it should be, if it is 3% and 3% or above, then only CCB is required, and if it is in the range of 15%, so ये है, ध्यान से देखना कि अगर मैं कहूँ कि आपके कंट्री का जो क्रेडिट टू जीडीपी गैप रेशियो है, if it is below 3%, then you have to maintain 0% CCB. The moment it crosses 3% mark, then from 3 to 15%, maintenance will be 0 to 2.5%. And if it crosses the 15% mark, then it will be 2.5% of RWA. This is something which you need to remember. This is something which you need to remember. Along with that, in the supplementary indicators, we also have the gross NPAs. In the supplementary indicators, we also have the gross NPAs. Next point is CCB is triggered by adverse macroeconomic conditions. RBI uses same indicators, that is credit to GDP gap, gross NPA growth, and others to decide the release, and consultation with the banks is mandatory before full release of the counter cyclical capital buffer. ठीक है जी, क्लियर हो गया पॉइंट? आई गेस ईच एंड एवरी पॉइंट इज क्लियर. अब जाके इसके क्वेश्चन को सॉल्व करते हैं. काउंटर साइक्लिकल कैपिटल बफर aims to prevent excessive credit growth during the good times and maintain credit supply during the economic downturns. Is this point correct? Absolutely correct, sir. This is the main reason behind CCB. That is, जब अच्छा समय है उस समय ज़्यादा lending ना हो, और जब economic downturn है, there should be a availability of credit supply. CCB, when fully activated, can be 2.5% of the bank's RWA, and it is held out of the capital, or it is held out of tier 1 capital. That is absolutely correct. So B statement is also correct. Moving on to the next, the buffer becomes fully activated when credit to GDP gap ratio exceeds 3%. No, sir. When credit to GDP gap ratio exceeds 3%, it is activated. It is activated, but it is not fully activated. Fully activated will be after 15%. The decision regarding the activation of CCB is normally pre-announced with a lead time of 4 quarters. That is true. Credit to GDP gap serves the primary indicator, but RBI may also consider gross NPA growth, credit to deposit ratio, industry outlook, as well as interest coverage ratio as the other parameters. That is correct. So answer is going to be second option. A, B, D, E is correct, but the C option is wrong. Moving on to the 8th question, guys. The 8th question says, with reference to the RBI direction on deposits and accounts, consider the following statements. On deposits and accounts, consider the following statements. So if I talk about these statements, let's try to decode each statement. The direction is governed. The direction governs the opening and maintenance of foreign currency accounts by persons resident in India, issued under the authority of Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999. So RBI Master Direction on Deposit and Account, it has talked about the direction specially which regulates foreign currency accounts which can be holded by Indian residents under the Section 11 of Foreign Exchange Management Act. That is correct. The next is provision related to Vostro accounts of non-resident banks have been moved from FMRD Master Direction to the new consolidated direction. That is correct. That is correct कि जो आपका Vostro account provisions है, they have now been moved They have now been moved. So the update consolidates such provisions previously which were found under risk management and interbank dealings. It has been removed now. ठीक है जी. Moving on to the next, the new section part 3 of direction includes guidelines for the special rupee Vostro accounts and Vostro accounts of non-resident exchange houses. That is also correct. Reporting obligation for accounts and deposits under the direction are governed by Master Direction on Reporting dated 1st January 2016. That is also correct. The direction became effective from 16th of April 2025 and is issued under Section 35 of Banking Regulation Act. No sir, these directions are not issued under Banking Regulation Act. They are issued under Section 11 of Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999. So this is wrong. So answer is going to be second option. A, B, C, D is correct, but the E option is wrong. अच्छा guys, दो चीजें बताना. Special rupee Vostro account खोलने के लिए do we require RBI approval now? Do banks require RBI approval to provide special rupee Vostro accounts service? Say yes or no. Second is, sir, recently RBI has received award for its internal digitalization initiative, and in order to achieve the digitalization initiative, RBI has received this award on global level for two initiatives. One initiative was Pravah. One initiative was none other than the Pravah, which we have just studied few minutes back. What was the other initiative of RBI which has been internally developed by RBI? What is it? Which is basically used by the employees of the banks. It is basically for the better implication of RBI services to its employees. What was that? Okay, sir, RBI approval is now not required. You can open up the account without RBI approval. That is true. अरे भाई बताओ दूसरी कौन सी इनिशिएटिव था आरबीआई का जिसकी वजह से आरबीआई को वर्ल्ड लेवल पे, ग्लोबल लेवल पे रिकॉग्नाइज किया गया? पढ़ाया भी है, तब भी बोला था बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. नाउ वेक अप गाइस, गिव मी द आंसर. इफ यू डोंट नो, जस्ट गिव मी एन. That is absolutely correct. So that is Sarthi. So Sarthi is the correct answer. These are the two initiatives which you need to remember. If I talk about Sarthi, it's an internal system to digitize and streamline the internal workflows for the RBI employees, and Pravah is basically for the external applications which RBI receives from the public. Chalo, moving on to the next one. With reference to RBI's Master Direction, Risk Management and Interbank Dealings, consider the following statement. Read it, guys. Take a minute. Take 20 seconds. I'm waiting. Go for it, guys. Give me the answer. Chalo, I'll help you. RBI Master Direction on Risk Management and Interbank Dealings governs the foreign exchange market in India, providing comprehensive regulatory framework for foreign exchange derivatives, as well as hedging, rupee account of non-resident banks, and interbank forex dealings. So what was the objective of this Master Direction? It was basically to ensure orderly development and maintenance of India's foreign foreign exchange market. It was basically to regulate and standardize RBI's exchange derivative contracts, interbank foreign exchange dealings and what not. तो इसमें क्या क्या चीजें इशू की गई है सर? RBI has issued regulation governing forex contracts as well as RBI has issued the directions to authorized persons to regulate the forex business. RBI retains power to modify or update the directions through the official notifications. So in this we have first direction is related to foreign exchange derivative contract. Second was related to overseas commodity and freight hedging. Then we have rupee account of non-resident banks, interbank foreign exchange dealings and authorized person related authorizations were given in this particular direction. Now let's find out which all statements are correct. The direction is issued under section 47 and 11 of Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999. So section 47 gives RBI power to make regulations and section 11 empowers to issue the directions to the authorized person. So that is correct. Second is it provides the regulatory framework for foreign exchange derivative contracts, overseas commodity and hedging as well as interbank forex transaction. That is true. The rules governing rupee account of non-resident bank continues to be exclusively covered under this direction as of 2025. Is it correct? Is it correct? Just go through with it. Okay, so the provision has been shifted. This provision has been shifted to the previous one. जो हमने just अभी पढ़ी, that is master direction on deposit and accounts. तो उस पे shift कर दिया. This is no more included in the same. Authorized persons under the direction include banks, primary dealers, recognized stock exchanges as well as clearing corporations. That is true. The direction is static in nature and it is not subject to any future amendments. That is wrong. So it will be updated continuously. So answer is going to be first statement A, B, D are correct. Got it? Moving on to the next question, guys. Read out the next question. Read out the next question. Chalo, I'll solve it for you. So with reference to the RBI guidelines on opening and operation of deposit accounts of minor, which of the following are correct? Minors of any age can open a deposit account with a natural or legal guardian. That is correct. आपकी कोई भी age है, you can open up this account. There is no problem with that. RBI allows you to do that. The next point is minor below 10 years may operate their accounts independently based on bank policies. No sir. Minors above age of 10 years, they can manage their accounts independently. Next is on attaining majority, minors must update their operating instructions and specimen signatures. That is correct. Majority means when you attain an age of 18 years. Banks must ensure that the minor accounts are always in credit. Overdraft is not permitted. So that is true. It should always be in credit and overdraft is not permitted. That is also correct. KYC compliance is mandatory even if operated by guardians. So कोई भी operate करे आपके account को, कोई भी operate करे आपके account को, अगर हम बात करें KYC की, it cannot be optional, it is mandatory. चाहे आप manage कर रहे हैं या आपके guardian manage कर रहे हैं. So answer to this particular question is second option A, C, D is correct. B and E statement is wrong. Mark it down. Got it, guys? Moving on to the next one. 11th question. With reference to FEMA 1999 compounding provisions, identify the correct statement. याद है आपको compounding provisions? Do you remember that? हमने काफी डिटेल में इस particular notification को cover किया था, इस particular direction को cover किया था. So compounding of contravention under the FEMA, what is it? Sir, contravention basically means violation of FEMA provision rules, violation of FEMA provision rules, regulations, notifications, directions or RBI issued authorizations. Continuing contravention will attract additional penalties. Compounding means it's a voluntary process to admit कि भैया मुझसे गलती हुई है and I'm ready to pay the penalty, that is known as compounding. समझ आई बात? Contravention का मतलब क्या है? So contravention basically means when you have done something wrong, when you have not fulfilled the norms as per the laws, as per the act, as per the RBI conditions. But what is compounding, sir? It is basically you come in front on your own कि भैया मुझसे ये contravention हुआ and I'm ready to pay the penalty. That is basically known as compounding. So RBI has come up with certain directions related to the same topic. What does RBI says? RBI says that non-quantifiable amount is up to 2 lakh rupees. Quantifiable amount is up to 3x the sum involved, and continuing contravention will attract 5,000 rupees per day as additional penalty charge, which will be charged every day. Eligibility is it is available for contravention under section 13 of FEMA. Remember that application process is physically at RBI regional office, or you can submit your application digitally via Pravah portal. Application fees will be 10,000 rupees plus GST, which is 18%. RBI provides an opportunity for personal hearing. Payment compounding order amount must be paid within 15 days. Cooling off period 3 years before a similar contravention can be compounded again. But if you have done a same contravention within 3 years, then it will not be compounded, rather it will be directly charged huge penalty on you. ठीक है जी? Is this point clear? Moving on to the next point. अब इसके questions को solve करने की कोशिश करते हैं. So compounding is available for all contraventions under section 13 of Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999. Yes sir, that is true. Under section 13 except section 3A, except section 3A. So the violation under section 3A can be compounded if amount involved is small. Sir, जो आपका section 3A है उसको कभी भी compounding में involve नहीं किया जाता. Remember that. Repeat contravention within 3 years of a compounded violation are not eligible for compounding. बिल्कुल सही है. 3 सालों के अंदर दोबारा contravention होगा तो उसकी compounding नहीं हो सकती. Compounding application can be submitted physically or via Pravah portal. That is true. Penalty for continuing contravention is 10,000 rupees per day after the first day. No sir, this is penalty value is 5,000 rupees per day. 5,000 rupees per day. So this is wrong. So answer is going to be ACD. Second option is correct. Got it guys? Moving on to the next one. अगला question काफी important है. That is securitized debt instruments. Go through with it and give me the answers. If someone asks me, what do you understand by the word securitized debt instrument, what will be my answer? My answer will be to this particular question would be securitized debt instruments are basically the financial products which are created by pooling together various types of debts such as loans, mortgages or receivables and issuing them as a securities to the investor. What will be the purpose? Or it allows the originator, that is the bank, to convert its illiquid assets into liquid ones, providing an alternative funding source. So इससे ये होगा कि जो आपने पैसा लोन पे दिया उसी लोन को आपने फर्दर फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट बनाकर मार्केट में बेच दिया और वहां से पैसा रेज कर लिया. So based on the performance of the underlying debt pool, the investors they will earn the return. What are the conditions? The minimum investment threshold is 1 crore rupees is mandated for the issuance of SDIs, that is securitized debt instruments. 1 crore rupees is mandated for the issuance of securitized debt instruments by RBI regulated originators and unregulated entities involved in securitization. Remember that the originator requirement is must have a minimum 3 years of operating experience, must retain minimum interest in the underlying pooling, that is 10% of the secured pool or 5% if receivable have maturity less than 24 months. Loan holding requirements before securitization. Loan must be holded for at least 3 months if the loan tenure is less than 2 years. Loan must be holded for at least 6 months if the loan tenure is greater than 2 years. Remember that. Then demat requirement, I would say all SDIs must be issued and transferred in the demat form applicable for all originators. Remember that the public offer will include minimum 3 years and maximum 10 days where it will be offered to the public. There is an optional cleanup sell or cleanup call, which means the originator can repurchase up to 10% of the original asset value to manage the residual exposure. That can also be done. So now let's go through with the options. What all options says, what all options talk about. So please pay attention on the screen. The minimum investment threshold for securitized debt instrument is 1 crore applicable for both regulated and unregulated, as well as unregulated originators. That is correct. This is a correct statement. Originator must have at least 5 years, no sir, must have at least 3 years of operational experience in order to issue SDIs. Originator must retain 10% of the securitized pool of 5% receivables with maturity up to 24 months. That is true. Loan with tenure greater than 2 years must be held for at least 6 months before securitization. That is correct. If the loan tenure is less than 2 years, then it should be held by the bank for 3 months before securitization. Public offers of SDIs must remain open for minimum 3 to 10 days. For minimum 3 to 10 days. So answer to this particular question is second option. A, C, D, E and B options are incorrect. Next question. Regarding the SEBI's investor charter for KRAs and related investors protection measures, identify the correct statement. The investor charter for KRAs was issued under section 11 of SEBI Act 1992. Give me the answer. Sir, the SEBI has issued the charter under section 11 of SEBI Act 1992. That is absolutely correct. The direction in the circular are effective 6 months after the issuance. No sir, the directions were effective from the date of the circular itself. The charter aims to facilitate investor awareness regarding the KRA service. KRA kya hota? What are these KRAs? Any idea guys? KRA stands for what? They are KYC registration agencies. So ये जो KYC registration agencies है, if an agency closed down, then it will be transferring its data to the new agency. So basically it ensures investors to understand the right service expectations as well as grievance redressal mechanism when dealing with KRAs. It has given the investor awareness, service standardization, grievance redressal as well as information disclosure. Remember that SEBI has also come up about the rules and regulations. Whenever a KRA is going to close its operations mandatorily or forcefully, then what process should be followed in order to transfer the data to the new KRA, and there will be no need by the customer to complete its KYC again. This was done in the month of September, so I'm including that as well over here. So SEBI has extended the automated trading window closure mechanism to include immediate relatives of designated persons in the listed companies. This is very important. It is a related news. So immediate relatives of the designated person in the listed companies will also face trading restrictions ahead of financial results. That is absolutely correct. So keeping that in mind, D statement is correct. PAN-based trading freeze mechanism for top 500 listed companies start in October 2025. What is it? Please pay attention. If you remember that SEBI has come up with the situation that PAN-based trading freeze mechanism, that means on the basis of PAN, trading freeze mechanism will be done. Phase 1 started already from 1st of October 2025, covering top 500 companies by market capitalization, and from 1st October 2025 it has been initiated for rest of the companies. So this is wrong. For top 500 companies, this PAN-based trade freezing has been introduced since 1st of July 2025. So answer to this particular question is again second option, ACD is correct. Moving on to the next, which of the following statement about FIMMDA as an SRO and RBI as SRO framework are correct. So we have two questions. First is related to FIMDA and the other question is related to the general provisions or the general framework of RBI given for self-regulatory organization. So RBI has recognized Fixed Income, Money Market and Derivative Association of India as the self-regulatory organization for financial market. So this recognition is done under the SRO framework which was introduced by RBI back in April 2024 based on the Omnibus framework of March 2024. FIMDA is the first entity officially recognized under this particular framework as a SRO for the financial market. Objectives of SRO is basically to promote compliance culture, to provide a collective voice, to study the international standards, collect and share the sectoral information, encourage innovation as well as promote research, development, transparency and fair pricing. What are the responsibilities of SROs? So SROs, they are responsible towards the member. They frame and ensure a code of conduct. They develop non-discriminatory membership fee structure. They disseminate sector-specific information through periodicals as well as training programs. They also establish grievance redressal and arbitration framework, as well as they educate public about the member operations and grievance mechanism. If I talk about the responsibility of SRO towards regulator, SRO is responsible to regularly inform the regulated entity, that is our regulator, that is RBI. It is also responsible to submit the annual report within 6 months of the financial year end. It will provide feedback on consultations and draft circulars, and it will comply with RBI inspection and provide required data. What is the eligibility criteria? So it should be a not-for-profit entity under Section 8 of Companies Act. Minimum net worth should be 10 crore rupees. Voluntary membership with adequate sector representation, and directors, they must demonstrate professional competence, integrity as well as fit and proper status. So these are some of the points which are important. आओ जरा क्वेश्चन देखते हैं. FIMDA is the first entity recognized under RBI's SRO framework for the financial market. Absolutely correct. The SRO framework requires a minimum net worth of 10 crore rupees. At least 1/3 of SRO board must consist of independent members. If I talk about the board composition, professionally managed board of directors with at least 1/3 independent directors, that is correct. SRO recognition by RBI is permanent and cannot be revoked. कैसा हो सकता है? RBI can revoke its recognition. See, recognition is periodically reviewed. It is periodically reviewed and if required, it can be revoked by RBI अगर लगे कि यहाँ पे सही नहीं हो रहा तो. SRO is responsible for promoting innovation, research, dissemination of sectoral innovation or sectoral information to RBI. That is correct. So answer to this particular question is second option, ACE are correct. Tarini has given the correct answer. Hirak has given the correct answer. What about others, guys? Buckle up, guys. Give me the answer. ऐसे मजा नहीं आएगा आपको. Moving on to the next. Which of the following statements regarding RBI's framework for formulation of regulation? RBI का framework for the formulation of regulation. RBI अगर कोई amendment करेगा, कोई नई policy लाएगा, कोई नया circular लाएगा, कोई नई changes करेगा, तो उसके लिए क्या process है? तो सबसे पहले RBI draft देगा, फिर RBI public की feedback का wait करेगा for 21 days. After RBI receive the public feedback, फिर RBI उस public feedback को analyze करेगा. If required, कि उस feedbacks की वजह से major changes है, then the draft will come up again. Otherwise, the final guidelines will come, including the desired feedback. लेकिन before including the desired feedback, RBI conducts impact analysis before finalizing the regulations to assess the potential outcomes as well as implications. Remember that. ठीक है जी. Now let's try to solve the question. Which of the following statements are correct? First one, RBI must provide at least 21 days for public feedback. That is true. All amendments, even minor procedural changes require public consultation under this framework? No sir, this is wrong. अगर कोई minor procedural change है या फिर कोई specific entity related कोई announcement है या फिर RBI का कोई internal process review है, तो उस केस में there is no need to follow all these steps. Impact analysis must be conducted before finalizing. That is true. Existing regulations issued before framework came into effect automatically becomes invalid. No sir, they will be considered valid. RBI may bypass the framework in urgent public interest or in case of confidentiality cases. That is also true. तो अब अगर RBI demonetization करेगा तो आपको बताकर आपकी फीडबैक लेकर नहीं करेगा, सीधा अपना डिसीजन सुनाएगा कि now the demonetization has been done. Moving on to the next. Regarding the non-resident investment in debt instruments, I am talking about foreign residents investing in Indian debt instruments. I am talking about voluntary retention scheme. I am talking about fully accessible route or voluntary retention route. Do you remember that? तो उससे related ये basic point है. So the general route says that eligible investors are foreign portfolio investors. Who are the eligible investors? Foreign portfolio investors, they are the eligible investors. Central government securities. So foreign portfolio investors, they can invest in the central government securities. What is the limit? So the limit is up to 6%. Limit is up to 6% of the outstanding stock. Then in case of state government securities, sir, it is up to 2% of the outstanding stocks, and in case of corporate bonds, it is up to 15% of the outstanding bonds. ठीक है जी? This is the general route. This is, I'm talking about the general route. So center or state government securities, that is short term. In case of short term securities, limit is up to 30% of FPI investment. Up to 30% of FPI investment. Sector-wise limit is again up to 30% of outstanding stock. 30% of outstanding stock. Concentration limit. If I talk about concentration limit, in case of concentration limit, if I am not wrong, 15% long-term FPIs and 10% for other FPIs. ठीक है जी? This is you need to remember. One more point which you need to remember is corporate debt. In case of corporate debt, corporate bond, minimum maturity should be greater than 1 year. Minimum maturity should be 1 year. Issue-wise limit we have is 50%. Issue-wise limit of FPI is 50%. No concentration limit has been introduced for the corporate bonds. Moving on to VRR. VRR basically talks about voluntary retention route, where FPI, they commit to a retention period to get freedom from certain macro-prudential limits. So it is the eligible instruments include the government securities, the corporate debt securities, the securitized debt instruments, the specified debt ETFs, as well as the repos. Investment limit is 2,50,000 crores. 2,50,000 crores. Allocation is tap or auction. You can go for the allocation either through auction or you can demand on tap, and maximum is 50%. Maximum is 50% per FPI per allotment. 50% per FPI per allotment is allowed. In case of obviously oversubscribed scenarios, retention period is minimum 3 years. Retention period is minimum 3 years. And if I say CPS must be, CPS is, when we use this word CPS, it is committed portfolio size. So committed portfolio size, or I would say 75% of CPS must be 75% of CPS must be invested in 3 months. 75% of CPS committed portfolio size should be invested in 3 months. This is something which you need to remember. Next point which you need to remember in this is exit options, liquidate the portfolio or transfer to general route or continue until maturity and even extend for additional identical retention period if required. Early exit is allowed by selling to another FPI who must follow all the VRR terms. Then we have fully accessible route. In case of fully accessible route, I would say invest in specified central securities without limit. FPIs, NRIs, overseas citizen of India, other notified by RBI are allowed. All FARs, that is all fully accessible route securities at date of issuance plus new. At date of issuance plus new, that is 5 years, 10 years, 7 years central government issuance are eligible. No macroeconomic potential or investment limits are there. Sovereign green bonds, investment allowed for the fourth category, that is the sovereign green bonds, which is allowed for eligible investors. And if I talk about the sovereign green bonds, in case of sovereign green bonds, who are the eligible investors? We have the IFSCs as per the RBI scheme for trading and settlement in India. ठीक है जी, clear हो गया point? I hope this point is correct. This point is clear. Now let's try to answer the questions. FPI under the voluntary retention route must invest at least 75% of their committed portfolio size within 3 months of the allotment. That is true. Investment in corporate debt under the general route can include partly paid instruments and debt mutual funds with maturity less than 1 year. No sir, as I have already discussed, minimum maturity in case of corporate bonds is need to be 1 year. So general route prohibits partly paid instruments. It prohibits partly paid instruments and it allows only the debt instruments up to 1 year. Fully accessible route investment by FPIs are free from macro-prudential and security specific limits. That is correct. Early exit from VR is allowed only by liquidating the portfolio. You cannot liquidate the portfolio. You have to transfer your portfolio to the third party. You have to transfer your portfolio to the another party which will be holding the portfolio as per the VRR conditions. Over-the-counter trades in the government security must be reported to NDS-OM. And this NDS-OM within 3 hours of the market close, that is correct. So answer to this particular question is second option, sir. ACE is correct, but B and D options are incorrect. ठीक है जी, clear हो गया? Okay, बहुत बढ़िया. चलो, let's move ahead. Maturity debt, 3 years maturity. Corporate के केस में 3 years maturity, I think no. Corporate के केस में the maturity should be greater than 1 year. Shipra, please make it correct. Maturity should be greater than 1 year. Is it fine, Shipra? Shall I move ahead? Chalo. Moving on to the next. Which of the following statements about the RBI digital lending directions are correct? All the digital loan dispersals must be made directly to the borrower's bank account. Is this point correct? Yes, sir. Absolutely correct. No problem with that. The next point says LSP. What is this LSP, guys? What does this term LSP stands for? Any idea? Give me the full form for LSP. Chalo, I'll help you. I'll give you the overall scenario. So RBI has given the digital lending directions and RBI encourages the innovation while ensuring the financial stability and protection of the depositor, because of which these guidelines have been introduced. RBI has issued guidelines under RBI Act 1934, National Housing Bank Act 1987, Factoring Regulation Act 2011, Credit Information Act 2005. Then what is this LSP? So this is lending service provider. So lending service provider, regulated entity lending service provider arrangement should be like contractual agreement should be there between the regulated entity and lending service provider. Regulated entity must verify the lending service provider technical capability, data privacy, fairness, regulatory compliance. Regulated entity should monitor the lending service provider on regular basis. It should review its operation which it conducts. Deviation must be addressed. That is very important. So multiple lender scenario is lender service provider must show all matching offers, disclosed unmatched lenders, and provide the annual percentage rate, tenure, monthly repayment, as well as penal charges very clearly while providing the loan itself. So these are some of the criteria, which also include there will be no automatic credit limit increase. There will be key fact statement issued. Regulated entity must maintain up-to-date public website with digital lending products with LSP details and their DLAs. Everything should be maintained by the authorities. Now let's try to solve the question. The first point talks about all digital loans dispersal must be made directly into borrower's bank account. That is correct. LSP are independently charge fees to borrowers for processing digital loans. No sir, they cannot charge. They cannot charge even a single penny on the borrower. They will be getting their charges. They will be getting their charges or their service benefits from the bank itself, not by the customer. Borrowers have a minimum cooling off period of 1 day to exit a digital loan without penalty. Yes sir, एक दिन का cooling period दिया जाता है. अगर आपको लगे तो आप लोन को exit कर सकते हैं. Biometric data can be collected and stored by regulated entity or LSP without restriction. No sir, this is not allowed. This is not allowed. Biometric data cannot be collected or stored unless legally permitted. Last is regulated entity must report all DLAs. Regulated entity must report all the digital lending apps or all the digital lending platforms on the CIMS portal, whether owned by them or by LSP. That is true. तो भैया अब आपको जितनी भी डिजिटल लैंडिंग एप्स है उसका डेटा शेयर करना. दैट इज करेक्ट. सो आंसर इज गोइंग टू बी सेकंड ऑप्शन ACE आर करेक्ट. गॉट इट गाइस. कूलिंग ऑफ पीरियड का मतलब अगर हम यहाँ पे बात करें, कूलिंग ऑफ पीरियड का मतलब क्या होता है? टेक इट इन दिस मैनर दैट टुडे यू हैव बोरोड अ लोन, और बोरोर लोन लेने के बाद अगर बोरोर को लगे कि नहीं यार मुझे ये सही नहीं लग रहा, आई डोंट थिंक दैट आई वुड बी एबल टू कंटिन्यू इट, सो यू हैव अ कूलिंग ऑफ पीरियड. Your loan will cool off after 1 day before cooling, before becoming water, before turning the water into ice which cannot be removed. You can easily throw the water out within a span of 1 day. ये कहना चाह रहा है कि अगर एक दिन के अंदर अंदर आपने लोन रिटर्न कर दिया कोई पेनल्टी चार्ज नहीं होगी, लेकिन अगर आप एक दिन के बाद जब वो लोन जम जाएगा, जब वो लोन बर्फ बन जाएगा तो उसे हटाना टफ होगा, तो उस केस में पेनल्टी चार्ज होगी. दैट इज व्हाट कूलिंग पीरियड वर्ड इज इंपॉर्टेंट ओवर हियर. ठीक है जी, क्लियर होगी बात. धनंजय डू रिप्लाई. मूविंग टू द नेक्स्ट वन. Which of the following statement are correct about SBI's EBP framework and anchor investors? What is this EBP? So the word EBP stands for what? So the word EBP basically stands for electronic book provider. So electronic book provider was launched back in, I would say back in 2016. Electronic platform for bidding in private placement of debt securities. It was launched. So SEBI has recently amended its chapter 6 and 8 of master direction, which was given in 2024, to make EBP, that is electronic book provider, more efficient and transparent and improving the price discovery. So what are the mandatory use of EBP? Private placements greater than 20 crores must use EBP. Earlier criteria was 50 crores. It applies to debt securities, municipal bonds, and now it is extended to real estate in infrastructure funds as well as real estate real estate investment funds, infrastructure investment funds. Voluntary use is securitized debt instruments, security receipts, commercial papers. They are, I would say, if they want, they can use these accounts, but it is voluntary to them. Pre-issue requirements will be the placement memorandum and term sheet to be submitted 2 working days before issue. That is 3 days for the first time user, and it is 2 working days before issue. Must disclose the base issue size. Must disclose the base issue size, as well as green shoe option, maximum 5 times the base size. Past green shoe allocation should all be done. What is this anchor investor participation? Must confirm electronically. T+1, that is 1 day. T-1, that is 1 day before the issue. Unconfirmed portion reallocated to general issue. Certain provisions, I would say that anchor investors reporting disclosures will be effective from 3 to 6 months from the circular date. Is it correct? So green shoe option, you all know that, also called over allotment option, stabilizes IPO price by allowing underwriters to sell extra shares, usually up to 15%. So that is basically green shoe option. Remember that. Is it clear? Shall we move ahead? In case of anchor investment, remember SEBI regulation says that the minimum investment is 10 crores. Lock-in period is 30 days post allotment. Cap is 60% of QIB portion, and early allotment is 1 day before IPO. It will be open for the anchor investor, which was done in case of Zomato, LIC, and even in the case of Nykaa's IPO. Got it? Okay, now let's try to solve the question. EBP platform is mandatory for private placement of debt securities greater than or equals to 20 crores. That is correct. Earlier, this limit was 50 crores. Anchor investors can sell shares immediately after allotment. No, sir. There is a lock-in period of 30 days. That is wrong. Green shoe options allow underwriters to stabilize the share price post IPO. That is true. Real estate investment trusts as well as infrastructure investment trust are now covered under mandatory EBP framework. That is also correct. Then we have placement memorandum and term sheet must be submitted at least 5 working days prior. No, sir. It should be submitted 3 working days prior for the first time EBP user and 2 working days prior for the regular EBP user. So answer to this particular question is going to be what? It is ACD. So first option is correct. ACD is absolutely correct. First option is the correct answer. ठीक है जी, clear हो गया? Moving on to the next question. The next question is related to wholly owned subsidiary. So which of the following statements are correct regarding RBI's wholly owned subsidiary framework for foreign banks in India? So the foreign banks who are operating in India, if they are setting up wholly owned subsidiary in India, there are certain conditions which have been introduced. So RBI has granted in principle approval under the scheme for setting up wholly owned subsidiaries by foreign banks in India. Estimates, even I would say that it was basically related to Emirates NBD, currently operates in the branch mode in Chennai, Gurugram, Mumbai. Other foreign banks using wholly owned subsidiary model as DBS Bank India, SBM India. So RBI has issued a license to commerce business under Section 22 of Banking Regulation Act, which says that legal status, branch not a separate entity, but subsidiary, wholly owned subsidiary is a separate legal entity. Remember that. In case of branch, if a foreign bank has opened a branch in India, its liability will be with the parent company, but in case of wholly owned subsidiary, the liability is limited to the parent company. If a foreign bank has opened a branch in India, it will operate same as the foreign bank, but wholly owned subsidiary can provide additional activities as well can involve in additional activities as well. Taxation is branch tax rate will be charged, but in case of subsidiary, corporate income tax rate will be charged. So single mode of presence, a foreign bank can operate either as a branch or a subsidiary, not both. Advantages of opening a wholly owned subsidiary: legal separation, local board accountability, regulatory clarity, as well as effective oversight by RBI. These are the benefits. What are the mandatory conditions? Some conditions include home country gives preferential claims to the local depositors, inadequate disclosure or supervision at home, complex structure or insufficient market discipline. RBI classify bank as systematically important bank if it is greater than 0.25% of scheduled commercial bank's asset. So RBI classify a bank as systematically important bank if its asset is 0.25%, if its asset is greater than 0.25% of the scheduled commercial bank's assets. Eligibility will include approval from home regulator is required. Capital requirements are minimum 500 crores upfront, Basel III compliant, maintain CRAR greater than equals to 10%, 1% above minimum for first 3 years, and later on they will come back to the regular scenario of 9%. Corporate governance greater than 51% directors should be there, out of which 1/3 should be independent directors, 2/3 should be non-executive, and 50% should be from Indian origin. Mandatory condition is CEO should be resident of India. CEO should be resident of India. Priority sector lending limit will include 40% of ANBC, 18% agriculture, weaker section. All those conditions are need to be fulfilled. Transition is 5 years of foreign banks converting to wholly owned subsidiary will be allowed. 5 years you will operate as a branch and then you will be converted into a wholly owned subsidiary of the country. Remember that. Now let's try to decode these statements. Foreign bank can operate both. No sir, it can either operate as a branch or wholly owned subsidiary. Minimum upfront capital is 500 crores. At least 25% of wholly owned subsidiary branches must be open up in the unbanked rural areas. In the unbanked rural areas, is this point correct? So that is correct. Wholly owned subsidiary can invest up to, wholly owned subsidiary can invest up to 10% in a single company and total 20% in the all the companies. That is true. RBI requires at least 51% of wholly owned subsidiary directors to be Indian origin. 51%. No sir, it basically says directors should be greater than 51%. Directors should be greater than equals to 51%, but 50% greater than directors should be of Indian origin. So it should be 50%, not 50%, not 51%. So this is wrong. So answer is going to be first option. B, C, D is correct. How many of you have given the correct answer? None of you. None of you. Very bad. 51%. देखो जरा, मैं आपको दोबारा बता दूं इस कंडीशन के बारे में अगर कुछ कंफ्यूजन हो रहा है. इसमें 3-4 चीजें हैं कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस के केस में. एंड इफ आई टॉक अबाउट दीज कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस कंडीशंस, what will be the correct meaning? The first one is independent director should be greater than or equals to 1/3 of the total directors. CEO should be for sure resident of India. At least 51% directors of the board must possess fit and proper qualification as prescribed under section 10. This means that professional or special knowledge experience in areas like accountancy, banking, financial, law, economics, business or agriculture will be included. Composition is 2/3 should be non-executive to maintain independence from management. 1/3 should be independent directors and 50% should be directors of Indian origin. ठीक है जी, तो clear हो गया. 51% is basically fit and proper वाला factor. 50% Indian origin, 2/3 non-executive, 1/3 independent directors. अब clear है? Give me yes sir please. Is it clear now? Okay, thank you Aki, Dhananjay, Saloni for the reply. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following statement about the Payment Regulatory Board 2025 are correct? Give me the answer. Who is the chairman of PRB? I have discussed this name few days back. Give me the answer and I'll discuss the rest of the options. So the question says or the question talks about PRB. PRB basically stands for what? So it is Payment Regulatory Board, which has been set up under the Payment Regulatory Board Regulation 2025. It has replaced Board for Regulation and Supervision of Payment and Settlement System. Purpose was to regulate and supervise the payment systems in the country. ठीक है जी? Clear? Now, okay, I'm getting the answer that Sanjay Malhotra ji is currently the chairperson. Deputy Governor T. Ravi Shankar is the member. Okay. Now let's talk about all the statements. The first statement says this PRB has replaced BPSS as the regulatory board for payment settlements in India. That is true. PRB comprises 6 members, 3 members, or I would say including 3 government nominees and 3 RBI officials. That is correct. Chairperson of PRB is elected by the board members every 2 years. No, sir. Chairperson is always going to be the RBI governor. That is an ex officio position. Majority. PRB decisions are taken by majority vote. The chairperson having a casting vote in case of a tie. In case of a tie, ठीक है, जो decision है वो majority पे होगा और अगर extra vote की जरूरत पड़ेगी that can be casted by the chairperson in case of tie. Nominated members can be above, so no, they cannot be above. They cannot be above 70 years of age, so this is wrong. So answer is going to be ABD. Got it, guys? Correct. Moving on to the next question. The next question is related to economic capital framework. I hope the economic capital framework is clear to you, which means the framework which is used by RBI to decide what amount out of its profit is need to be transferred to the government as a surplus. So before transferring its profits to the government as a surplus, RBI is required to keep certain reserves in order to counter the losses in the near future. So for that profit distribution purpose, this initiative has been taken, and this review is recommended every 5 years from 15th May 2025 for next 5 years. Every 5 years this will be reviewed. Now we have available realized equity, we have required realized equity, we have contingent risk buffer, and we have revaluation balances. I hope you remember that. Contingent risk buffer covers monetary and financial stability, credit and operational risk. Required realized equity, it is basically the contingent risk buffer plus any shortfall in revaluation balances. Available realized equity is basically RBI's capital plus reserve funds plus risk provisions are included. So according to this announcement, monetary and financial stability risk, RBI's buffer range has been widened. Now the RBI buffer range has been widened from 4.5 to 5.5%. It has been increased to 5% plus minus 1.5%, which means the range will be 3.5% to 6.5% for the buffer. And if I talk about the contingent risk buffer includes the monetary and financial stability risk, credit risk, operational risk. So if I talk about the contingent risk buffer, it is 6% plus minus 1.5%, which means it is 4.5% to 7.5%, 4.5% to 7.5% of balance sheet. Now, earlier this was 5.5 to 7.5, तो ये जो 5.5 to 6.5 था, अब उसे RBI ने इंक्रीज करके कितना कर दिया, 4.5 to 7.5% कर दिया of the balance sheet, which is the reserve RBI needs to maintain. And due to these increase in reserve value, तो RBI का जो total surplus था of around 3 lakh crores, out of that value of 3 lakh crore rupees, only 2.69 lakh crore rupees was transferred to the government as a surplus. Rest around 46,000 crore was reserved as CRB. We call it as contingent risk buffer. याद आया guys? हल्का हल्का जो दिमाग में होगा वो कहीं ना कहीं रिवाइज हो गया होगा. So contingent risk buffer now covers market risk, credit risk, operational risk, mandatory and financial stability risk, and it is mandated. True. Expected shortfall can be chosen at 95% confidence. No sir, अगर मैं इसकी बात करूं expected confidence वाले point की, so in case of expected confidence वाला point, I would say the contingent buffer can choose the expected shortfall at 99.5% confidence level, which is high safety, or 97.5% confidence level, which is moderate safety. So जो आपका moderate safety है, that is 97.5%, high safety 99.5%, और flexible range based approach allows the adaptive resilience. Previously क्या था, जो additional provisioning था, that was only if revaluation balances expected shortfall is 97.5% of confidence तभी होगा, लेकिन अब यहाँ पे ऐसा नहीं है. उसने ये कहा कि सर जो expected shortfall है at 99.5% confidence level, that is high safety, you can maintain the buffer for that, and even for 97.5% moderate safety buffers are also allowed. ठीक है जी, क्लियर हो गया पॉइंट, कोई दिक्कत? तो मार्केट रिस्क बफर कैन बी सेट बेस्ड ऑन द एक्सपेक्टेड शॉर्टफॉल. तो अगर आपका कॉन्फिडेंस लेवल 97.5 to 99.5% है, in that particular case expected shortfall should be calculated to maintain the buffer. So this is wrong. Available realized equity consists of RBI's capital, reserve funds, as well as risk provisions such as contingency fund and asset development fund. This time RBI has not maintained any amount in asset development fund. Around 46,000 crore was maintained in the contingency fund only. Dividend transfer to the government is made only after ensuring that the required realized equity minimum levels are maintained. That is true. CRB for the financial year 2024-25 was increased to 7.5% balance sheet, resulting in record dividend transfer of 2.69 लाख करोड़. यहाँ तक ठीक था, लेकिन जो डिविडेंड ट्रांसफर हुआ है वो रिकॉर्ड भी है, बट उसकी वैल्यू 2.69 लाख है, इट इज नॉट 3 लाख करोड़. तो उसके बेसिस पे आंसर जो बनेगा दैट विल बी ए ऑप्शन 1, 3, 4 आर करेक्ट. फिफ्थ इज रॉन्ग. सलोनी पढ़ो. रिकॉर्ड डिविडेंड ट्रांसफर ऑफ 3 लाख करोड़ नहीं, मैंने ये क्लियरली तो लिखा है ट्रांसफर 3 लाख करोड़ का हो सकता था, हुआ 2.69 लाख करोड़ का. क्योंकि आपका जो रिजर्व्स है कंटिजेंट रिस्क बफर वो इंक्रीज हो गया फ्रॉम 6.5 to 7.5, जिसकी वजह से ये डिक्रीज हुआ. सो इट इज स्टिल द रिकॉर्ड डिविडेंड टिल डेट, बट इट इज नॉट 3.5 लाख करोड़, इट इज 2.69 lakh crores. Don't make silly mistakes. It will cost you very high in your examination. Is it clear, guys? Regarding the RBI CRIS platform, consider the following statement. RBI CRIS, what is the CRIS? Sir, it is very important. It stands for Climate Risk Information System. So Climate Risk Information System is basically set up to address the gap in the climate related financial information, as well as to support standardized climate risk evaluation, and even it has been launched as a part of RBI's initiative on sustainable finance. तो अक्टूबर 2024 बाय मंथली मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कमेटी मीटिंग में इसके बारे में बात की गई थी, और कॉम्प्लीमेंट्स दिए गए थे that we will be coming up with the framework, we will be coming up with the regulatory sandbox, we will be coming up with the greenathon in order to provide, or in order to come up with these climate risk information system development. But finally RBI has come up with it. It is a two-pronged data platform. First is web-based. First one is web-based. If we talk about the web-based scenarios, if we talk about the web-based directory, it basically lists various data sources such as meteorological and geospatial data publicly available on RBI website. Then we have the second one, that is restricted access data portal, provides processed and standardized data for regulated financial institutes only. Remember that. Key focus areas are three main data gaps. First is physical risk, natural disaster, transition risk, risk from policy, technology, or market shift, and carbon emission data, that is standardized measurement to support risk assessment. So this has been done. So under this particular question, which all statements are correct? RBI climate risk, RBI climate risk information system. So the RBI climate risk information system is designed to address physical risk, transition risk, carbon emission data, that is correct. The platform consists of web-based directory and restricted access portal, which is available. No. This is available for general public, but this, as the name suggests, restricted access data is not available for the public. Physical risk estimations include hazard data such as geographic suspectability, vulnerable data like historical financial losses, that is correct. Transition data involves sectoral emission, carbon pricing, benchmark decarbonization pathway, that is correct. RBI climate risk investment system information system aims to provide processed and standardized climate data only to banks and exclude NBFCs. No sir, data will be provided to all the regulated entities. So keeping that in mind, first option is correct. 1, 3, 4 are correct. Consider the following statement regarding the initiative of internationalization of Indian rupees. RBI proposes that foreign branches of Indian banks can currently lend only in INR to the non-residents. Not only, but yes, they can lend. Not only, but yes, they can lend in the INR also to the Indian residents, or they can lend. Currently, foreign branches of Indian banks are restricted to lend in foreign currencies only, but now they will be allowed to lend in INR also. Remember that. In financial year 2024-25, India exported approximately $25 billion to South Asia, with over 90% destination was Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. That is absolutely correct. Non-residents are restricted from opening rupee accounts outside India. This is wrong. They are now allowed. RBI's move aims to increase dependency on bilateral swaps. No, sir. To decrease the dependency on bilateral swaps. India has not yet entered any local currency agreement with the other countries. That is wrong. India has already entered the local currency agreement with UAE, local currency agreement with Indonesia, local currency agreement with Maldives, local currency agreement with Mauritius. So these agreements have been already signed. So the only statement which is correct in the given question is second statement. Rest all the questions are wrong. Okay, ji? Moving on to the next. With reference to RBI's report on insured deposits, consider the following statements. Identify the correct statement. So it is basically related to what? So it is basically related to the insured bank deposits in India. So if I talk about the insured bank deposits in India, as of 30th September 2024, the total insured deposits under DICGC were 96.7 lakh crores, which is up from 7.11%. That is correct. This is absolutely correct. Give me the data for March 2024, because the data for March 2025 has been already presented. It's also out. So give me the data for that as well in the comment section. Next is the proportion of fully insured accounts increased to 98.2% in 2024 from 97.9% in the previous year. This is incorrect. This is incorrect. The proportion of fully insured accounts, they have declined from 97.9% in the previous year to 97.7% in the 2024. The insured deposit consists of 46.3% of the total accessible deposit, which is down from the previous year, because in the previous year this percentage was 47.5. So keeping this in mind, this is correct. The deposit insurance fund reserves ratio fell to 2.02%. No sir, it has not fell to, it has increased to 2.21% in 2024 from 2.02% of the previous year. So remember that the DIF reserve ratio improved to 2.21% in comparison to the previous year. RBI has RBI has decided to immediately increase the insurance, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. RBI ने acknowledge किया कि करेंगे change, but immediately करेंगे ऐसा कोई बात नहीं हुई है. So keeping that in mind, what will be the correct answer? Sir, in that particular case, only two options are correct. That is fourth, A and C. Only two options are correct. That is A and C. Is it clear, guys? Okay. So we have total 48 questions. So we have done half of them. That is 24. अब अगर आपको ये लग रहा है कि कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा, तो इसका मतलब बहुत क्लियर है दैट यू हैव नॉट रिवाइज्ड योर प्रीवियस सेशंस. अगर रिवाइज किए होते तो यू मस्ट बी इन अ पोजीशन टू आंसर देम. चलो, डोंट वरी, लेट्स टेक अ ब्रेक गाइस. लेट्स टेक अ ब्रेक फ्रॉम 11:38 टू 11:42. ठीक है जी. सो इट्स अ ब्रेक टाइम. पानी वानी पी लीजिए. आई विल ऑल्सो गेट सम वाटर फॉर मी. सो इट्स अ ब्रेक टाइम. विल कैच यू सून. Done? Fine? Sure. Okay then. See you in 5 minutes. By the time कर लीजिए जो भी आपके basic requirements है, so that we can come back and start again, and I will be completing this session in next 1 hour. In next 1 hour it will be completed. Okay then, ready guys? Shall we begin with the next question? Chalo. The 25th question is now on your screen. With reference to the RBI CRR reduction and the liquidity management, consider the following statement, identify the correct statement. As we all know, RBI has reduced the CRR by 1%, and this reduction will be done in 4 tranches with 25%, 0.25% every tranche, September, October, and 2 tranches in the month of November. CRR will be reduced in 4 equal tranches, 25 basis point each, reaching 3% of NDTL by November 2025. That is true. Weighted average call rate is the primary operating target of monetary policy in India and reflects the systematic liquidity mismatch. That is correct. WACR is basically the rate of call money market where interbank borrowing and lending for short term is done. Roof limit is MSF, floor limit is SDF, and the median value is repo rate. RBI has injected 9.5 lakh crore rupees of durable liquidity since January 2025, including term VRR auction and USD and INR swaps. That is correct, absolutely correct. Moving on to the next point. What does the next point says? So the next point says WACR rising towards MSF rate lowers bank cost of funds similar to rate cut. No. अगर ये WACR is going towards MSF तो इससे तो बैंक का borrowing rate बढ़ जाएगा. Borrowing rate बढ़ जाएगा तो it's not a effect of rate cut, it is a effect of rate increase. Remember that. The lower bound of the RBI liquidity corridor is the policy repo rate. No sir, it is not the policy repo rate, it is SDF, but the middle bound is repo rate. Remember that. So answer to this particular question is second statement. A, B, C is correct. D and E statements are wrong. I hope Shraddha, now it is clear to you why D statement is wrong. Next, regarding the RBI's master direction on microfinance loans, identify the correct statement. Microfinance loans are collateral-free loans which are given to the households with yearly income of up to 3 lakh rupees. That is absolutely correct. Moving on to the next point. Maximum 50% of the household's monthly income can be committed to loan repayment, including the new as well as existing loan. That is also correct. आपकी जो EMI है, that should not be greater than 50% of your monthly income. That is also correct. Moving on to the next point. What does the next point says? NBFC's microfinance institute must allocate at least 60% of total assets to microfinance loans, while non-microfinance institutes NBFCs can allocate up to 25% of assets. This is also correct. अगर हम बात करें पहले, this was 85%. Then it was reduced to 70 or maybe 75%, and now it is finally reduced to 60%. Your 60% of the total asset should be given in the form of microfinance loans. Prepayment penalties are allowed on microfinance loan if disclosed in KFS, that is key financial statement. This is wrong. Prepayment penalties are not allowed. Prepayment का मतलब if you are closing down your loan before the timelines, that means you are completing your loan before the timelines, no penalty will be charged. KFS must include the annual rates. That is correct. Must include the amortization schedule. That is correct. Fees and must be provided before the loan execution. That is correct. तो आंसर क्या बनेगा सर? फर्स्ट ऑप्शन A, B, C, E is correct, but the D option is wrong. Next, RBI has updated rules and regulations related to urban cooperative banks as well as inoperative accounts. Identify the correct statement. What does it say? It says that the urban cooperative banks financial health related initiatives have been talked about. So urban cooperative banks, they must ensure that at least 50% of the aggregate loan are small value loans by 31st March 2026. What is a small value loan? So loan up to 25 lakhs or 0.4% of tier 1 capital, whichever is higher. Maximum ceiling in this case is 3 crore rupees per borrower. Board should periodically review the portfolio quality and may set lower ceilings if needed. Housing as well as real estate exposure. The previous limit was housing, real estate, commercial advances up to 10% of the total asset. Additional 5% relaxation for the priority sector lending has been given. Was allowed earlier, but the residential mortgage non-priority sector is now up to 25%. Real estate excluding housing is up to 5%, and in case of tier wise maximum housing loan per dwelling unit is, in case of tier 1 it is 60 lakhs, in case of tier 2 urban cooperative bank 1.40 lakhs, tier 3 urban cooperative banks 2 crore rupees, tier 4 urban cooperative banks it is going to be 3 crore rupees, and the maximum limit is 3 crore rupees. ठीक है जी. अब ये एक छोटा डायरेक्शन था अर्बन कोऑपरेटिव बैंक का जो आरबीआई ने दिया था, इसीलिए मैंने इसमें एक और डायरेक्शन ऐड कर दिया, दैट इज इनऑपरेटिव अकाउंट और अनक्लेम डिपॉजिट का. सो ट्रांसफर टू दी डिपॉजिटर्स एजुकेशन एंड अवेयरनेस फंड will be done when the credit balance is inactive for 10 years or greater than 10 years, then only the transfer will be done. Activation of inoperative account, banks must allow the KYC updation at all branches including the non-home branches. Even you can update your inoperative accounts through the video customer identification process as well. That is something which you need to remember. Now let's try to answer. Small value loans for the urban cooperative banks are now defined as loan up to 25 lakh rupees or 0.4% of tier 1 capital, but there is a condition, whichever is higher and subject to a maximum value of 3 crore rupees per borrower. This is correct. Aggregate exposure of urban cooperative bank to real estate can be 25% of the total loan and advances. No sir, of the total loan and advances nahi. In this case you remember real estate excluding the housing loans should be up to 5% only. Remember that. Residential mortgage to non-priority borrowers cannot exceed 25% of the total loans and advances. This is correct. Inoperative bank accounts inactive for 10 years will be transferred to DEF. That is correct. KYC for reactivation of inoperative account can include video customer identification process as well. This is also correct. So answer is going to be second option, A, C, D, E are correct. Got it guys? Clear? Very good Saloni. You have given the correct answer. Moving to the next one. With reference to RBI direction 2025, identify the correct statements. First one, RBI has come up with the KYC amendments, and in those amendments RBI has come up with certain directions. First one, RBI said that in case of low risk customer, KYC must be updated by the banks within 1 year of the due date or by the 30th June 2026, whichever is later. We all know that high risk, medium risk, low risk up to 2 years or every 2 years, medium risk every high risk every 2 years, medium risk every 8 years, and low risk review of KYC should be done every 10 years. Now, business correspondents, they are also allowed to receive the KYCs. That means self-declaration for no change or change only in address must be obtained through the authorized business correspondents. Remember that physical, digital, biometric, eKYC or video customer identification process is allowed. Customer must receive the acknowledgement for submission. KYC records must be uploaded or updated to the central KYC records registry within 7 days of receiving the information. Remember this point. One more point which I can recall related to this particular news is regulated entity must issue at least 3 advance intimations before due date and 3 reminders after the due date. Deadline of this process is 1st January 2026, but in case of low risk it can be 1 year or 30th of June 2026, whichever is later. ठीक है जी, clear हो गया point, समझ आ गया? I guess there is no doubt. Now let's try to decode. CKYCR is managed by RBI. Store KYC records for the selected banks only. No sir, it's record the KYC data for all the banks. Self-declaration for no change in KYC or change in only address can be obtained via business correspondent, ATMs, digital channels or via video call option. That is also correct. Next is high risk customer KYC must be carried out every 2 years, medium after every 8 years and low risk after 10 years. That is true. Regulated entities are not required to issue intimations or reminders for periodic. No sir, 3 ड्यू डेट से पहले, 3 ड्यू डेट के बाद आपको इंटीमेशंस देने जरूरी है. सो कीपिंग दैट इन माइंड, ACD इज करेक्ट. सो फर्स्ट ऑप्शन इज द करेक्ट आंसर फॉर द गिवन क्वेश्चन. अगला क्वेश्चन काफी इंपॉर्टेंट है. द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन टॉक्स अबाउट stripping or reconstitution in the government securities. Which of the following statements are correct? तो याद रखना, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज they were already allowed with the process of stripping and reconstitution, but now this has been allowed for the state government securities as well. लेकिन क्वेश्चन है इसका मतलब क्या है? If anyone asks you what is the meaning, sir, it is basically breaking a conventional bond into its individual cash flows, principal plus interest, which can be traded separately. Reconstitution का मतलब है it's a reverse process of stripping, combining zero coupon bonds to recreate the original bonds. So necessary for investors wishing to sell the entire bonds rather than individual strips. Requires alignment of the maturity dates for accuracy. I hope you remember. क्यों की जाती है ये stripping? सब पहला रीजन है yield curve arbitrage, exploiting discrepancies in the yield curve. Example, stripping long term bonds if short term rates expected to rise. तो होगा क्या? अब मान लो मेरे पास एक लॉन्ग टर्म बॉन्ड है, ठीक है, प्रिंसिपल है प्लस इंटरेस्ट है. अब हमने क्या किया, इसी बॉन्ड को आप फाड़ दिया, टीयर डाउन कर दिया, स्ट्रिप कर दिया, प्रिंसिपल को अलग से इशू कर दिया, इंटरेस्ट को अलग से. अब यहाँ पे ये जो प्रिंसिपल है, व्हाट इट सेज दैट कूपन रेट विल बी चार्ज ऑन विच इट विल बी इशूड, एंड इंटरेस्ट रेट मीन्स द रिटर्न विल बी रिसीव्ड एज पर द गिवन वैल्यू. अब यहाँ पे अगर लगेगा कि शॉर्ट टर्म बॉन्ड्स के जो इंटरेस्ट रेट्स हैं वो इंक्रीज होने वाले हैं एंड लॉन्ग टर्म बॉन्ड्स पे डिमांड कम होगी, तो हाथों हाथ स्ट्रिपिंग हो जाएगा एंड ओनली द इंटरेस्ट wala factor will be introduced at high interest so that they can be purchased easily by the public. Now in this particular scenario, which all statements are going to be correct? Please pay attention on the screen, guys. So the first point is stripping involves breaking the conventional bond into principal and interest components. That is true. Reconstitution means combining zero coupon bond to recreate the original bond, require matching the maturity updates. That is true. Only bonds with residual maturity above 14 years are eligible. नहीं सर, ऐसा कोई point नहीं है. It is incorrect. Only bonds with residual maturity up to 14 years, not above. Up to 14 years are eligible. Strips in state government securities can be requested through RBI's e-Kuber system by the market participant with HGL account. That is true. इसमें कोई problem नहीं है. ISIN and nomenclature for state government security strips will be different from the central government strips. No sir, it will be similar to the central government strips. So this is wrong. So answer is going to be first option, A, B, D are correct. Moving on to the next question. The next question talks about the revised priority sector lending limits for small finance bank. As you all know, for the small finance bank, earlier the priority sector limit was 60%, which has now been revised as from 75%. It has now been decreased to 60%. And same for the urban cooperative banks as well. So now the value is 60%. This is true. Small finance bank must allocate at least 40% of A and B, C to different priority sector lending subsectors as per the existing values. That is also correct. इसमें कोई problem नहीं है. 40% का ये criteria fulfill करना होगा. The remaining 20% may be allocated to any subsector under priority sector lending where the bank has competitive advantage. तो 40% तो आपने allocate कर दिया to the different subsectors. उसके बाद जो बाकी का 20% है, you can allocate just as per your area of advantage. अगर आप rural area में और आपको लग रहा है कि agriculture में you are enjoying it, then you can mark it for agriculture. That is allowed. The revised norms increase the mandatory priority sector allocation from 75. No sir, it has increased. No, it has decreased the mandatory priority sector allocation from 75% to 60%. So this is wrong. Renewable energy and social infrastructure are included as priority sector lending subsectors. That is true. So answer is going to be A, B, C, E. So first option is the correct answer. Saloni, you are doing very well. This answer is also correct. Moving on to the next one. Which of the following statement about the RBI project finance directions are correct? So if I talk about the RBI's project finance directions, which of the terms are correct? So in this particular case, you need to remember some of the important terms which you must understand, which you must know. So what is DCCO? So DCCO basically stands for what? Any idea, guys? The word DCCO stands for what? बाकी तो बात की बात है, CRE, इस पे तो मैं बाद में आऊंगा, पहले बस आप मुझे ये बता दो DCCO की फुल फॉर्म क्या है? भूल गए? How many of you have forgot it? So it is date of commencement of commercial operations. It is date of commencement of commercial operations. Now keeping the same in mind, let's try to find out the correct answers for the question. Project finance loans are primarily repaid from project cash flows, not the borrower's credit. तो सर जो आपका रीपेमेंट ऑफ लोन है दैट इज डन फ्रॉम दी प्रोजेक्ट कैश फ्लो ओनली, इसीलिए जब प्रोजेक्ट काम करना शुरू करता है, पैसा आना शुरू होता है प्रोजेक्ट में, तभी रिटर्न शुरू होता है बैंक को. फाइनेंशियल क्लोजर रिक्वायर एटलीस्ट 90% ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट फंडिंग टू बी टाइड अप. अगर आप you are going to implement the project, you are going to begin the construction phase, it cannot be done until and unless the financial closure is done for 90% of the project funding. Date of commencement of commercial operations. Date of commencement of commercial operation extension automatically results in project loan being classified as NPA. अगर आपका date of commencement increase हो जाता है, it will result in classification of project as NPA. No, account may remain standard if account may remain standard if account may remain standard if RP conditions are met. So if the RP conditions are met, it will be considered standard, nothing to worry about it. If the RP conditions are met, then it will be considered standard, then there is nothing to worry about it. RP means resolution plan conditions. Next we have is standby credit facility can be used to cover the cost overrun during the construction. Yes sir, बिल्कुल, अगर आपके cost बढ़ जाती है during the construction, आप इसको use कर सकते हैं. That is also correct, nothing wrong in that. The next point talks about the last point, I guess, that is CRERH projects construction phase provisioning is 7.5%. नहीं सर, ये गलत है, इसको मैं बताता हूँ इसमें क्या क्या points आएंगे. Remember that. So if I talk about the provisioning norms, first of all guys, what is this CRE? What do you understand by the term CRE? Any idea? CRE, CRERH, any idea? I'm still waiting. No, chalo. It is commercial real estate. Other one is commercial real estate residential housing. Commercial real estate residential housing. So if I give you the answer, पहला point जो यहाँ पे आपको याद रखना, that is the lender exposure. So in this particular case, you have to remember few things. First one, stage-wise release certified by lender's independent engineer. Minimum land or right of way is 50% in case of PPP and 75% in case of non-PPP or commercial real estate projects. Loan tenure should be up to 85% of the project economic life. Lender exposure is up to 1500 crores. That is greater than equals to 10% of the total exposure. 1500 crores should be greater than or equals to 5% or 150 crores, whichever is higher. This is something which you need to remember. ठीक है जी. अब अगर हम बात करें provisioning norms की, so in case of provisioning norms, remember that we have CRE, then we have CRERH, then we have other projects. So in case of construction phase, in case of operational phase, so in case of construction phase, what will be the provisioning? That will be 1.25%, 1% and 1%. In case of operational phase, it will be 1%, 0.75% and 0.40%. Additional DCCO deferment provision infrastructure will be So if there is additional provisioning will be done in case of date of commercial commencement of operation is increased, in that particular case, provision is 0.375% per quarter. 0.375% per quarter in case of infrastructure, and in case of non-infrastructure projects, it is going to be 0.5625% per quarter. 5625% per quarter. I hope it is clear to you. ठीक है जी. अब इस केस में अगर हम कहें क्या क्या पॉइंट्स हमारे लिए क्वेश्चन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से सही है. फर्स्ट स्टेटमेंट इज करेक्ट, सेकंड स्टेटमेंट इज करेक्ट, थर्ड इज रॉन्ग, फोर्थ इज करेक्ट. फॉर commercial real estate housing project, construction phase provisioning is 1% and operational phase provisioning is 0.75%. So this is wrong. So answer is going to be first option A, B, D are correct. Clear हो गया जी, समझ आ गया. सारी provisioning बता दी मैंने, सारी कहानी सुना दी एक में ही. अगले पे बढ़ते हैं. Which of the following statements about RBI extension of call money market timings from 1st July are correct? So RBI ने recently जो call money market की timings है that have been increased. Now they have been increased from 9 AM to 5 PM से बढ़ाकर उसे कितना कर दिया, 9 to 7 कर दिया. Next is market repo and tri-party repo closing time has been revised to 4 PM effective from 1st July 2025. So market repo और tri-party repo timings को भी revise किया, 4 PM किया. This is true, लेकिन यहाँ पे जो date है that should be 1st August 2025. Trading hours of the government securities, forex, interest rate derivatives are ineffective. That is true. Working group recommended these changes was chaired by Executive Director Radha Shyam Rathod. That is true. Extension applies to all market participants, including corporates as well as mutual funds. No, sir. This is allowed only to the standalone primary dealers as well as to the banks. These extensions are allowed only to these two of them, not to everyone, because call money market mein who can participate? Only banks as well as standalone primary dealers. So keeping that in mind, second option is correct. Rest all the options are incorrect. Is it clear, guys? Is it clear? Got it? Chal. So remember that second option is correct. Moving to the next one. Which of the following statement regarding the RBI agency commission are correct? RBI agency commission का मतलब क्या हुआ? जब RBI किसी बैंक को अपॉइंट करता है एज एन एजेंसी एंड दैट बैंक ऑपरेट एज एन एजेंट फॉर अदर government departments or government authorities and managing their accounts or providing them with these services. Obviously they are not providing these services free of cost and this service is chargeable. और इसके जो charges हैं that will be paid by whom? So the charges will be paid by none other than RBI. तो RBI वो charges देगा. वो क्या क्या है? अगर हम बात करें पेंशन ट्रांजेक्शन के, तो पेंशन ट्रांजेक्शन के चार्ज को बढ़ाकर 80 रुपीज़ कर दिया, विच वॉज अर्लियर 75 रुपीज़ पर ट्रांजेक्शन. उसके अलावा अगर हम कहें मैक्स ऑफ 14 पेंशन रिलेटेड ट्रांजेक्शन्स पर पेंशनर पर ईयर विल बी डन 12 मंथली, 2 एरियर्स. उसके बाद शेयरिंग ऑफ एजेंसी कमीशन में फुल रेट कमीशन शेयर होगा जिसमें 75% और 25% का स्प्लिट होगा अगर आप दो बैंक्स मिलकर किसी सर्विस को प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं. उसके साथ साथ इन केस ऑफ physical mode mein, if you are receiving the funds on the behalf of the government, then also you will enjoy the charges. If you are receiving the funds in the e-mode, then also you will get the charges. Other payments will also be received, which was 6.5 paisa per 100 rupees. Now it has been revised. So these are the areas which we need to remember. अब मेरा अगर point आपसे मैं पूछूं तो मेरा आपसे point बड़ा simple है कि सर मुझे comparison बता दो क्या क्या रेट्स चेंज हुए. जैसा कि मैंने बताया था पेंशन ट्रांजैक्शन का पहले जो चार्ज था पर ट्रांजैक्शन का आपको जो कमीशन मिलता था दैट वाज 75. अब उसे बढ़ाकर कितना कर दिया? सर उसे बढ़ाकर कर दिया है 80 रुपीज़. उसके बाद अगर हम बात करें if bank is accepting the physical transaction, that means you are reaching the bank to deposit the funds on the behalf of the government, या आप गवर्नमेंट को पैसा पे कर रहे हैं with the help of bank. So उस केस में भी रिवीजन किया गया. उस केस का जो रिवीजन है वो कितना हो गया? सर अगर हम 40 रुपीज फिजिकल ट्रांजेक्शन की बात करें तो 40 रुपीज जो पर ट्रांजेक्शन था, 40 रुपीज का जो पर ट्रांजेक्शन था, दैट हैज बीन रिवाइज्ड. आई होप यू रिमेंबर दैट. 40 rupees का per transaction has been revised. How many of you remember that we have discussed this? Say yes or no in the comment section, please. Yeah, 40 rupees physical transaction has been changed, or is it the same? Or is it still the same? अच्छा, it is unchanged. 40 वाला unchanged है, ठीक है. What about e-mode transaction जो कि 9 rupees था, वो बढ़कर कितना हो गया? सो 9 रुपए वाले को बढ़ाकर 12 रुपए कर दिया. दैट इज ऑल्सो करेक्ट. एंड व्हाट अबाउट 0.65 रुपीज ट्रांजेक्शन? व्हाट अबाउट 0.65 रुपीज ट्रांजेक्शन? एनी आइडिया? सो 0.65 वाले को बढ़ाकर अब 0.70 कर दिया, यानी 7 पैसा फॉर 100 रुपीज, यानी 7 पैसा फॉर 100 रुपीज. देखिए जरा, RBI pays the agency commission to the banks handling central government transaction under the section 45 of RBI Act 1934. Is this true? As per the RBI Act 1934, that is true. That is true, sir. Then the maximum pension payments are capped at 12, no sir, 14 transactions. GST on agency commission is currently 18% and paid by RBI along with the commission. Paid by RBI along with the commission, that is true. Wrong or overstated claims attract penalty of bank rate plus 2%. That is correct. Stamp duty collection is eligible for agency commission even if bank charges the public separately. No sir, this is not allowed. Stamp duty commission not eligible, is not eligible. अगर बैंक separately charge कर रहा है तो आपको कोई commission नहीं पे करना एज अ गवर्नमेंट. तो आंसर क्या बनेगा? सेकेंड ऑप्शन इज करेक्ट. A, C, D are the correct options. Which of the following statements regarding RBI's ETP directions 2025 are correct? RBI's ETP directions, that is electronic trading platform directions. So RBI has reviewed the ETP regulations after stakeholders feedback. And final directions have been issued. So it has covered all the electronic trading platforms, all the operators of electronic trading platforms, trading eligible financial institutions, bond, financial money market instruments, forex instruments, and derivatives. So all operators of ETPs which are trading all the eligible financial instruments are covered. Exempted are scheduled banks as well as the standalone primary dealers. Scheduled banks as well as standalone primary dealers is the sole price or quote provider, and bank as well as standalone primary dealer is the party to all traders. Remember that. Mandatory RBI authorizations talks about no entity can operate an ETP without RBI approval. Trading restricted to RBI approval instruments, that is required. Eligibility criteria is in case of general Indian incorporated company, foreign shareholding allowed under FEMA, greater than 2 years, KMP with greater than 3 years of trading infrastructure experience are allowed. Financial conditions, minimum net worth should be 5 crores. Technologically, you should be sound enough to perform these transactions. These are the conditions if you want to seek the license to operate the ETP. Now, keeping that in mind, no entity can operate ETP without RBI authorization, even if the trader's foreign exchange instrument, that is true. RBI का approval होना जरूरी है, that is correct. Scheduled commercial banks and standalone primary dealers are completely exempted and do not need to submit transaction data to the RBI. So this is wrong. They are exempted, but they still submit the transaction data to RBI. ETP operator must maintain a minimum net worth of 5 crores. That is true. All ETPs must preserve data for at least 10 years and 3 years post any investigation. True. RBI can grant exemptions from directions permanently or temporarily with conditions. That is also correct. So answer क्या बनेगा? Sir, इस question का answer बनेगा second option. A, C, D, E is correct, but the B option is incorrect. Remember that. Moving on to the next question. Consider the following statement regarding the RBI prepayment charges directions 2025. No prepayment charges are allowed for floating rate home loans to individual for non-business purposes. अगर आपने एक फ्लोटिंग लोन लिया और वो आपने नॉन बिजनेस पर्पस के लिए लिया, तो इन दैट पर्टिकुलर केस नो चार्जेस विल बी चार्ज. That is absolutely correct. Nothing wrong with that. Moving on to the next point. Small finance banks cannot waive prepayment charges under any circumstances. This is wrong. They can waive the prepayment charges in case of loan given to the individual for non-business purpose. They will also waive off the charges if they have given loan to individual for business purpose, but loan value is up to 50 lakhs, then also they will charge no charges. Co-obligant are jointly responsible for repaying the loan and usually have ownership in the asset. That is true. The next point is prepayment charges must be explicitly mentioned in the loan agreement, sanction letters, as well as key financial statement. That is also true. Charges on cash, credit, or overdraft loan can be applied on the total outstanding balance. No, sir, it is basically applied on the sanction limit. It is basically applied on the sanctioned limit, but in case of term loan, it is applied on the outstanding balance. In case of term loan, prepayment charges penalty will be charged as per the outstanding balance in case of term loan, but in case of if you say cash, credit, or overdraft, it will be on the basis of sanction limit. Next, regarding the RBI's guidelines on AEPS touchpoint operators, which of the following statements are correct? Acquiring banks can adopt existing KYC of an ATO. What is this ATO? So this is Aadhaar enabled payment system touchpoint operator, which basically is a terminal deployed by the acquirer bank for AEPS transaction. So it is basically the terminal acquired by the bank for APS transaction. And what is this AEPS touchpoint operator? Sir, individual onboarded by acquiring bank operating the AEPS touchpoint using Aadhaar or biometric. So first of all, we have bank accept Aadhaar enabled payment system, but that can be accepted at APS touchpoints only, and these touchpoints are managed by the operators. ठीक है जी, तो ये एक हुआ, फिर एक टच पॉइंट बना, टच पॉइंट को मैनेज करने के लिए ऑपरेटर बना, और ऑपरेटर से रिलेटेड ये डायरेक्शंस दी गई हैं which we are going to study now. Now, if I talk about the first option, acquiring bank can adopt existing KYC of an ATO, that is Aadhaar enabled payment system touchpoint operator, if the individual is already a business correspondent or sub agent. बिल्कुल सही है सर, तब दोबारा KYC कराने की जरूरत नहीं है. Re-KYC is required if an ATO remains inactive for consecutive 3 months, not 2 months, for consecutive 3 months. Banks must monitor ATO activities continuously using operational parameters like location, transaction volume, type of ATO. That is also correct. API used by ATOs can be used exclusively, can be used for other banking services. No sir, it will be used, API used by ATOs can be used exclusively for AEPs only, not for any other transactions. Periodic KYC updates for ATOs are mandatory even if they remain inactive. Periodic KYC updates are mandatory regardless of the activity. That is true. So ACE is correct. So second option is going to be the correct answer. Shraddha has given the correct answer. Beautiful. Next, regarding the RBI's revision on SDF, MSF, call money market and repo rate timings. So in case of SDF and MSF, that is standing deposit facility as well as marginal standing facility, old timing was 5:30 to 11:59, but now this old timing has been revised from 5:30, it has been changed to 7 p.m. to 11:59 from 1st of July 2025. In case of call money market trading, it has been extended from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. जो टाइमिंग थी, अब उसे 5 p.m. से बढ़ाकर कितना कर दिया, 7 p.m. कर दिया. दैट इज ट्रू. मार्केट रेपोस एज वेल एज ट्राई पार्टी रेपोस, जो कि पहले 9 से 3 या 2:30 बजे तक था, अब उसे इंक्रीज करके 4 p.m. कर दिया फ्रॉम 1st August 2025. दैट इज करेक्ट. द टाइमिंग ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटी मार्केट इज ऑल्सो रिवाइज. टाइमिंग ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटी मार्केट इज ऑल्सो रिवाइज. इज इट करेक्ट? नो सर, गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटी मार्केट की टाइमिंग सेम है. Changes are based on the recommendations of the Radha Shyam Ratho working group. That is correct. So answer is going to be second option, A, B, C, E is correct. But the timings of the government security market is still unchanged. It has not been changed. Done? Okay. Moving on to the next. Regarding the Deposit Education Awareness Fund Scheme revised operational guidelines, which of the following statements are correct? DEF was established under the Section 26 of Banking Regulation Act 1949. That is absolutely correct. Remember this section as well as Act. Banks must transfer unclaimed deposits weekly to the DEF account. No sir, unclaimed deposits will not be transferred weekly. It will be transferred monthly. It will be transferred monthly, or monthly में भी जो transfer होगा, there has been a timeline given. There has been a fixed timeline which has been set. So in case of transfer of unclaimed funds, monthly, which will be done in the last 5 working days. In case of claim or refund, customer will be paid first and bank will claim those funds from RBI in the first 10 working days of the month. तो भैया आप claim करोगे as a bank in the first 10 working days of the month, or you will be crediting the claim into the unclaimed into the DEF account in the last 5 working days of the month. Remember this. Udgam portal allows, guys, anyone can give me the full form for this Udgam portal? Can you give me the full form for Udgam portal? It stands for what? Any idea? Anyone? I'll give you the answer. Udgam portal allows searching unclaimed deposits across the multiple banks. That is absolutely correct. RBI pays simple interest on unclaimed deposit at rate notified from time to time, and the current rate is 3%. That is correct. Refund claims can be submitted using Form 2 within first 10 working days of the month. Yes, refund claims जो बैंक ने already claim दे दी है, उसको refund करने के लिए RBI को बोला जाएगा in the first 10 days, और बैंक अपने unclaimed accounts को credit करेगा in the DEF account in the last 5 working days. So keeping that in mind, you should be clear to this. Unclaimed deposit gateway to access information, Ami, that is absolutely correct. So answer is going to be A, C, D, E are the correct answers. Next, regarding RBI's master circular on credit facility to SC and ST communities, which of the following statements are correct? So out of the given one, which of the following statements are correct? So keeping the following statements in mind, we have to give the answer. First one, Deen Dayal Yojana, which is related to National Rural Livelihood Mission, mandated at least 50% of the beneficiaries to be SCs and ST. That is correct. Bank can insist on security deposit for loans under the government scheme. No security deposit. Lead bank scheme ensure each district has designated bank coordinating the credit. That is true. CEG SSC guarantee loans up to 5 crores for the SC. 5 crores for the SC entrepreneurs. So the range is 15 lakhs to 5 crores. That is true. Loan rejection at branch level without escalation is allowed under RBI guidelines. No sir, rejection must be escalated. That should not be done at the branch level. Branch से ऊपर वाले level पे अगर आपका rejection होगा, that will be accepted, not below that. So answer is going to be second option, A, C, D. Next, regarding the RBI's e-Kuber system for government payments, which of the following statements are correct? Which of the following statements are correct? From 16th July 2025, all government payments above 75 crores must be routed through e-Kuber. That is correct. Previously, the mandatory threshold was 500 crores. That is also correct. Some cases, 100 crore threshold may reduce. In some cases, 100 crore threshold may reduce to 50 crores. Remember that in some cases, 100 crore threshold may reduce to 50 crores in the near future. So what is the purpose? Faster, more transparent, accurate handling of the government payments. So keeping that in mind, what all points are correct? Sir, the first point is correct. Second point is correct. e-Kuber allows fund matching in 24 hours and real time tracking. That is correct. e-Kuber system is only used for state government payments. No sir, it is e-Kuber is used for central government, not only for state government payments. Government can further reduce these threshold to 50 crores. That is also expected. So answer is going to be second option, A, B, C, E are correct. Clear hai ji? Chalo, agla question. Consider the following statement about RBI's 11 July circular on voluntary pledge of gold or silver for collateral free loan. As I have already discussed, कि अगर आप एक कोलेटरल फ्री लोन लेते हैं फ्रॉम बैंक, there is no need to pledge your gold or silver. If you are doing it, you are doing voluntarily in order to enjoy the extra benefit which you are expecting from the bank to give, or which you are expecting your bank may give you. So in that particular context, which all points are going to be correct? So the first point is voluntary pledges. First one point is collateral free loan for agriculture has been increased from 1.6 lakhs to 2 lakhs per borrower. That is correct. Accepting voluntary pledges of gold or silver within the collateral free limit violates RBI norms. No sir, RBI कहता है हमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, अगर आपको मिल रहा है आप एक्सेप्ट कर लो, नहीं मिल रहा तो आपको प्रेशराइज नहीं करना कस्टमर को टू प्रोवाइड दोज कोलैटरल्स. MSME loans under PMEGP are eligible for collateral free loan up to 10 lakh rupees. That is correct. Banks are encouraged to use CGT MSE for risk mitigation and collateral free loans. This is also correct. Borrowers are forced to pledge gold, silver if the loan exceeds collateral free limit. No. Pledging is voluntary, not mandatory. Even if you are exceeding the collateral free limits, I'm not asking you to for sure pledge your gold or silver only. If you're pledging some other asset, it's okay with me. You have to pledge a collateral, not only gold and silver. So keeping that in mind, ACD is correct. Second option is correct. Sanchita Shraddha has given the correct answer. Brilliant. Next, consider the following statement regarding the SEBI's reform in July 2025. Startup founders, they can retain the ESOPs. They can retain the ESOPs granted at least 1 year before filing the red herring prospectus in front of SEBI for going IPO or for going public. That is true. That is absolutely correct. इसमें कोई problem नहीं है. Second statement states that PSU delisting now require approval from 2/3 of the public shareholders even for government held. No sir, there is no requirement. PSU delisting no longer need public shareholder approval. Alternative investment funds can create co-investment vehicles for large investors in the unlisted companies. That is true. Shares from conversion of compulsorily convertible securities are exempted from 1 year minimum public holding before offer for sale. That is also true. Relaxed KYC norms for foreign funds only apply to equity investments, not to the government bonds. This is wrong. The relaxed KYC applies to government bonds, not to the equity. The relaxed KYC norms apply to government bonds, not to the equity. So keeping this in mind, ACD is correct. Second option is correct. Moving next. Which of the following statements about SEBI VCF settlement scheme is correct? What is this VCF? So this is basically venture capital fund scheme, which talks about all the older schemes from 1996 to 2012. तो उनके settlement के लिए RBI has come up with this particular plan. So governed by SEBI regulation 1996, it basically focused on early stage high risk startups. I'm talking about the old venture capital funds. It has weak governance, narrow investment scope, no mandatory closure. Compliance and disclosure were limited. Investors fund often locked indefinitely. 2012 के बाद SEBI replaced VCF regulations with alternative investment fund regulation for first broader investment avenues. Second is stronger governance, investor protection, mandatory sunset clause and uniform reporting. I hope आपको ध्यान आ रहा होगा. अब इस context में अगर हम बात करें features की, तो this is applicable from July 21, 2025. Application deadline is January 2026. Application fees is 25,000 plus 18% of GST. Base penalties is 1 lakh rupees if delay is less than 1 year. Extra penalty 50,000 per year beyond first year. Additional penalty is 1 to 6 lakh based on the size of unliquidated corpus value. And who will pay the penalty? Fund manager or the sponsor will pay the penalty, not the investor. Purpose is to settle violation, avoid enforcement, clean SEBI records as soon as possible. That is a point. Now let's try to find out the answers. First point says only venture capital funds before 2012 are eligible under the scheme, not after that. Fund manager or sponsors bear the penalty, not investors. That is true. Application fees is 25,000 plus GST. Scheme helps unlock investor funds and regularize legacy funds. That is true. Mandatory closure is not enforced under alternative investment fund framework. That is wrong. So there is a mandatory closure. Mandatory closure is enforced under the alternative investment fund. So the answer to this particular question would be only B and D. Check out the next statement, guys. Okay, what will be the answer? Which of the following statements about the unclaimed deposits and Udgam portal is correct? Unclaimed deposit refer to the accounts inactive for 10 years or more. SEBI has the highest unclaimed deposits in India. That is true. The next point we have is Udgam. Udgam stands for Unclaimed Deposit Gateway to Access Information. So what is the point? Third point says Udgam portal allows users to search unclaimed deposit across multiple banks. That is true. RBI require banks to comply with KYC, AML, CFT, PMLA, that is Prevention of Money Laundering Act regulations. Is it correct? That is absolutely correct. Udgam portal was launched before 2020. No sir, Udgam portal was launched back in August 2023 if I'm not wrong. एक बार check कर लेना, मेरे हिसाब से August 2023 है. So keeping that in mind, second option BCD is correct. Next, consider the following statement regarding the SEBI's revised enhanced surveillance mechanism for small cap stocks. For the small cap stocks, SEBI has revised the surveillance mechanism. So what all changes have been done? So the first point we have is a stock can include stage 1 of ESM if it shows a sustained upward close to close price trend over past 3 months. Stage 1 criteria now includes sustained upward close to close price trend for over past 3 months. That is correct. Stage 2. So stage 2 eligibility requires that company's PE ratio is less than or equal to twice the Nifty 500 PE ratio. That is also correct. That is also correct. Moving on to the third statement. Trade for trade settlement is mandated for stage 1 stocks to ensure speculative intraday trading. To ensure speculative intraday trading is discouraged. That is correct. Revised ESM framework applies only to companies with market capitalization below 500 crores. No sir, it applies only to the companies with market capitalization below 1000 crores. Below 1000 crores. Stocks already trading within 2% price band will have their price band widened to 5% upon inclusion in stage 1. Stocks already trading a 2% price band retain the same band. It is not widened to 5% upon inclusion in stage 1. So this is not correct. This is a wrong statement. Answer will be B option. 1, 2, 3 are correct. Last question of the day, guys. Last question of the day. Maybe last or second last. Last question. Which of the following statements about RBI investment in alternative investment fund direction 2025 are correct? A single regulated entity can invest up to 10% of an alternative investment fund corpus without any restriction. Without any restriction, is it true? A single regulated entity can invest up to 10% of a alternative investment scheme fund. This is true. Investment up to 5% has no restriction, but अगर investment 5% से ज़्यादा होगी तो restriction होगा. Restriction में अगर downstream हो रहा है तो downstream के केस में 100% provisioning is need to be done. Next point is investments by all regulated entities collectively in an alternative investment fund scheme cannot exceed 20% of the scheme corpus. Collective investment by all the regulated entities in a scheme capped is now 20% in some cases and 15% in majority cases. तो 15 और 20 दोनों ही करेक्ट है, 15%, 20% दोनों ही करेक्ट है. रिमेंबर दैट if the regulated entity invests more than 5% in an alternative investment fund scheme that has a downstream debt exposure to the regulated entity debtor company, 100% provisioning must be made for the proportionate exposure. Absolutely correct. Next, legacy investment made under older RBI circulars are exempted from the board approved investment policy requirement. Nahi sir. Legacy investments, they remain valid, but the requirement for a board approved investment policy still applies. Exemption is only for corpus limit 10% or 20%, not for the policy requirement. Remember that. Investments in subordinated units under priority distribution model are fully deducted from tier 1 and tier 2 capital of the regulated entities. That is absolutely correct. The investment which is done in the subordinated units under the priority distribution model, that investment will be deducted from the tier 1 and tier 2 capital of the bank. That is also correct. ठीक है जी, क्लियर हो गया. अब जिसने जून, जुलाई, मई, अप्रैल, मार्च की so the answer is going to be 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 5. 2, 3, 2, 3, 5. सो उस हिसाब से अगर हम चले तो यहाँ पे कोई आंसर है ही नहीं है ना, तो इसको कर लेते हैं 2, 3, 5. बी ऑप्शन इज करेक्ट, फर्स्ट ऑप्शन इज रॉन्ग. ठीक है. हाँ, तो मैं ये कह रहा था जिसने मार्च, अप्रैल, मई, जून, जुलाई के आरबीआई के सर्कुलर्स पढ़े होंगे उन्हें तो आज मजा आया होगा, उन्हें क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करने में मजा आया होगा. जिसने नहीं पढ़े एज यूजुअल उनको कुछ भी समझ नहीं आया होगा और उनका जो थोड़ा बहुत कॉन्फिडेंस था इन सर्कुलर्स को लेकर वो और भी डाउन हो गया होगा. तो अभी भी टाइम है. अगले सेशन में आने से पहले विच विल बी टुमारो एट 7 PM. टुमारो एट 7 PM. आज कितनी डेट है? आज है 7th आई गेस. व्हाट इज द डेट टुडे? टुडे इज 7th आई गेस. हाँ जी, तो कल 8th of October को at 7 PM I will be discussing the RBI circulars for the month of August and September. तो आने से पहले पढ़ के आना, वरना फिर से जग सूना सूना सा लगेगा. जैसे आज कोई आंसर नहीं कर पा रहे थे, कल भी कोई आंसर नहीं कर पाओगे, उससे कोई फायदा होगा नहीं. जो थोड़ा बहुत कॉन्फिडेंस है कि सर्कुलर्स आते हैं वो कॉन्फिडेंस भी जीरो हो जाएगा. तो बिना पढ़े मत आना. अब आप कहोगे कि मैं जो PDF आपके लिए बना रहा हूँ वो क्लास से पहले ही आपको दे दूं, तो भैया इसका मतलब आप अपने लेवल पे तो कुछ इन्वेस्टमेंट करना ही नहीं चाह रहे. तो आपके पास ऑलरेडी मेरी क्लास की PDFs है जो यूट्यूब पे मैंने क्लासेस लिए, उनमें भर भर के मैंने आरबीआई के सर्कुलर्स करवाए हैं. कल आने से पहले एक बार सारी PDF पढ़ के आना, वरना आने का कोई फायदा नहीं है. बिना पढ़े मत आना. ठीक है जी. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ज्वाइनिंग. गुड लक. डोंट फॉरगेट टू लाइक द सेशन एंड डू शेयर योर फीडबैक इन द कमेंट सेक्शन. कैसा लगा ये सेशन? अगले सेशन में अगर आप कुछ रिवीजन चाहते हैं, कुछ चेंजेस चाहते हैं, तो प्लीज अपने सजेशंस आज ही दे दीजिए ताकि कल के सेशन में मैं आपके सजेशंस को भी इंक्लूड कर लूं. और कल का सेशन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. कल का सेशन बहुत ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है. उसके बिना तो ये एग्जामिनेशन हिलेगा ही नहीं. तो कल के सेशन के लिए अगर आपके कोई भी सजेशंस हैं कमेंट सेक्शन में जरूर देना. आज का सेशन कैसा लगा अपनी फीडबैक जरूर शेयर करना. और कल वाला सेशन बिना पढ़े अटेंड मत करना. तो मुझे लगता है उसी का फायदा माइक, मुझे लगता है उसी का फायदा अगर मैं आपको घर यहाँ आसान क्वेश्चन करवा दूं और एग्जामिनेशन से बाहर निकलते हुए आपको लगे कुछ आता ही नहीं था और जाने से पहले लगे सब आता है, उसका फायदा क्या? उसका कोई फायदा नहीं है. दैट इज वेस्टेज ऑफ टाइम, दैट इज वेस्टेज ऑफ रिसोर्सेज. आज डर जाओगे तो अभी भी 10 दिन है, पढ़ लोगे. आज अगर कॉन्फिडेंस में आ गए तो अगले 10 दिन खराब कर लोगे. दैट इज व्हाट आई थिंक इज गुड फॉर यू. ठीक है. टुमारो एट 7 PM 8th of October, अगस्त, सितंबर, आरबीआई सर्कुलर्स बिना पढ़े मत आना. कोई फायदा नहीं होगा क्लास में आने का. थैंक यू सो मच.